You know, he's made offers to Charles Conwell. He's made offers to Speedy Rashidi Ellis. He's made offers to Josh Kelly, and he's made an offer to Andre Katzourakis from Greece. You know, the overtime boxing OG. So lot to unpack there, and I want you guys to really stay tuned towards the end of this, because I got like what I got one, two, three, four, five. I got about 6 talking points. So when I get to the sixth talking point, that's the one you're gonna want to really listen to, because I'm gonna reveal some information you guys may not have anywhere else, and you can take it with a grain of salt. But it's definitely interesting information regarding Jaron Ennis. So listen, shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash that like button if you're watching live. Smash that like button. If you're watching the playback, smash that like button so this video gets pushed out to as many people as humanly possible, so that they can come and hear the wise words from the untouchable True School Sports Empire and become part of the untouchable True School Sports Empire. I appreciate everybody. Let me know what city, what state, what continent you're watching from, and definitely let your thoughts and opinions be known, because I'm gonna get to everybody's thoughts and opinions and be interacting like we always do here on True School Sports. So it's good to be here. It's good to be seen, and yeah, it's just great. But anyway, before I get into my talking points, because we're probably gonna be here for like a solid, I'm gonna say like hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. Before I get into my talking points, let me take some time to go ahead and acknowledge a couple of the comments here, because we got people chiming in, speaking their piece. My man, Hand History Ball, good to see you, a long-time viewer. He says, it's obvious what's going on. Don't be shy. Say the truth. The truth shall set you free. Well, listen, we ain't never had a problem with that. I say the truth whether I want to or not. So, that's got me into a hot water before. So, we're definitely going to do that. My man Panama says, right before the Conwell fought Garcia, y'all were calling him the boogeyman. Now it's a bum offer. LOL, I can't make this up. I mean, well, to respond to you, $250,000 to fight a non-world champion is not really a lot of money. So there's that. And like Floyd Mayweather used to always say back in the day, in boxing, in the sport of boxing, in the business of boxing, timing is everything. So yeah, before Conwell lost to Garcia, the fight had more market value. He lost, so it hurt the fight's market value. Every fighter has a market value, and a fighter's market value can change either up or down depending on what they do inside during their career. So before he lost to Garcia, his market value was higher. He lost to Conwell lost to Garcia, so now it's lower. It's just basic 101. But anyway, good to see you here. Finding pieces. If Boots didn't have a potential point line at 154 before he made the jump, why go up there? He could have faced Norman and 154. Thank you. That's my main thesis statement of everything. Like you left the big Brian Norman fight on the table for this. Andre Katzourakis and these kind of guys. Like that's really where I'm at. Do you think this onus falls more on Boots or Eddie? Do you think re-signing at Matchroom was a mistake? I think the onus it's. I don't want to be like PC, but I feel like it's a combination of everything. You got to remember, like, Jaron Ennis has had a pretty well-matched career. And I think, too, like, Boots is the best American fighter since Eddie Hearn has had, probably since, like, maybe Demetrius Andrade. You guys tell me who you think. He hasn't had too much talent on the level of a Boots Ennis, right? So I feel like he's kind of – I do feel like Eddie is pulling some strings to kind of keep him – doing what he wants to do. And I think once Boots signed with him, which, by the way, from a business standpoint, I'm not even trying to say that Boots is all the way wrong. He's getting paid really well, and he's fighting in Philadelphia, so they're taking some boxes. But he's at a stage of his career now where he's 34 years, or not 34 years old, but he's 34 fights in, and he needs to start stepping up to the plate and being in some meaningful fights. So that's really what it is there. Let me see who else we got. My man, Jeffy the Pig. Hey, True School. What's good, champ? Good to see you. Boots versus Conwell is a good scrap. I'm not mad at that. Yep. Boots offering the guy Avanesha knocked out is diabolical. Yes, it really is. So let's get to it, man. There's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to go ahead and get to. Make sure y'all smash the like button. We'll start off with talking point number 1, right? Because I think we got enough people here. We can go ahead and get into the talking point. So talking point number 1. All right. So all these offers, the reason why Boots is not even in the running to secure a big name opponent is because Eddie Hearn isn't really, like, he's not backing up his words with his finances. He's not making that investment that he needs to make into Boots to really get him those opponents in the ring, right? Everyone knows Jaron Ennis is a top talent. Everyone knows he's a tough fight for anybody in the world, but $250,000 to fight world champions is not going to get it done. So that's why we're getting the Charles Conwell. That's why we're getting Andreas katzourakis. That's why we're getting, Rashidi Ellis, which is crazy. That's why we're getting Josh Kelly, which I told y'all he was going to try to go fight Josh Kelly. And really and truthfully, like, when I'm going to keep hammering this point home until, and listen, if you're a Boots Ennis fan and you're tired of me saying this, then he's going to need to start moving a little differently and start stepping up to the plate and making some big fights happen, because until I see otherwise, this just feels like Demetrius Andrade all over again. The only difference between Jaron Ennis and Demetrius Andrade is two things. Number one, I don't think Jaron Ennis is as talented as Demetrius Andrade. And number two, I don't think Andrade was afforded the opportunity to fight in Rhode Island as much as Boots has been afforded the opportunity to fight in Philadelphia. I think more people want to fight Boots than they did Andrade. So I'll leave it at that. But it reminds me of Andrade because I was thinking about it today, right? I'm thinking about, him re-signing a Matchroom, the route he's taken. I was thinking back to that interview he did when he didn't fight Virgil Ortiz when Turkey made the offer, and he used the word miscommunication. So we're gonna go to screen share. He used the word miscommunication. So this is the exact quote from that article, right? And I'm setting the stage for a greater point here, so you guys just stay with me. I know I get long-winded. I know, there's a lot of layers when you talk to me. But look. So this is a direct quote from Boots in the interview of my man Jamil Parker, YSM. Go subscribe to YSM. He does great work. But he stated the following, and I quote, "I reached out to everybody involved to get down to the bottom of what was going on, and it was just a bunch of miscommunication." The word that you want to highlight here is miscommunication, right? Because it seems like there's never really Boots and his management team and Eddie Hearn are never in sync, which is why there's always confusion, which is why his career is not really moving in a way that's satisfying. And even the biggest Boots fans, the biggest surprise I've seen with this news of all these Ennis offers has actually been the amount of people that are Jaron Ennis fans that are saying, like, look, I'm a Boots fan, I support him, I want him to do well, but he's not moving the way I want to see him move. He's not moving in a way that's befitting of someone that I rated so highly. A lot of people actually are he's testing their patience, really and truthfully, right? So miscommunication, right? And it made me think about back in the past when Andrade, right? When Demetrius Andrade back in 2014, when he was offered to fight Jamel Charlo on I think it was Khan. Was it Khan Alexander? I believe it was Khan Alexander. But anyway, he was offered a chance to fight there, and it said that he was unhappy with the purse with Jamel Charlo, and he had Artie Palulo, Banner Promotions, and all his different promotions, because Andre had like two promoters. He was signed to like two promoters at once. So he said that, when the fight was announced, it all was due to a lack of communication. So even down to the words, even down to like some of the key moments of their career, Boots was talking about miscommunication. Andre's talking about miscommunication. They both signed with Eddie Hearn. They both re-signed with Eddie Hearn and are going to get overpaid to fight, like European fighters or lower level fighters. So the similarities, like with each passing fight, with each passing development in his career, is making me sick to my stomach, because I was a big Andre fan. Y'all know this. Like, if y'all watch me, y'all know I was a big Andre fan. And over the course of time, as time wore on, I had to start to accept reality that, hey, he ain't who you thought he was. So I think there's still hope for Boots, but things got to turn around. Things got to turn around now, because right now, straight up and down, like 6 o'clock, he looks like a duck. He looks like a straight duck, and I'm not really thrilled about that. So that is what it is. There, I wanted to get that out the way as far as my Boots and Andre comparison, because people are always like, BT, why do you always say that Boots reminds him of Andre? I don't know. I don't know, man. Boots versus Ortiz. Yup, Boots versus Ortiz. See what we got here. LMO, we all knew that the rumor was Cat Boots ain't ready for that smoke. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Cigar says flip flops. Oh, you call? I've seen people like calling them like different kinds of nicknames. They call them flip flops. I saw someone call them slippers. Y'all talking crazy about boots, but it's understandable. He ain't really he's not stepping up to the plate the way he needs to. And one thing about this channel, one common theme I keep talking about, whether it's Devin Haney, whether it's Jin Suzuki, whether it's Najee Lopez, whether it's Terrence Crawford, whoever the case may be, you know, or whether it's Xander Zayas, you can't hate on the guys that are stepping up to the plate and making fights happen. That's the main thing boxing is about, is stepping up to the plate and showing and proving. And Boots, he's not doing that. Regardless of the talent and the eye test, he's not doing that. So, you know, it is what it is. But anyway, I want to break down each fight, right? Because there was all these offers sent out. I guess we'll start here. I feel like this is the one that I had to start out with because it was the one that kind of raised my eyebrows. You know, Conwell, not surprising. Josh Kelly, definitely not surprising. Andre Katzourakis, not surprising at all, right? But the one that raised my eyebrows was this one right here, because my thing is this. So Boots told us he couldn't fight Virgil Ortiz because he wanted to cement himself as the #1 guy and go undisputed in the welterweight division, right? And so that being said, when it came time, when a fighter finally emerged that people wanted to see him fighting Brian Pillman Jr., he said no, he can't make the weight. He said, I'm going to 154 because y'all say this with a smoke at, right? So he goes 54. So I'm under the assumption that he's targeting guys that are at 154. But my thing is this: if you really wanted to fight Rashidi Ellis, you should have just stayed at welterweight. If this was a fight that you always had in your mind, if this was a fight that your management team had in mind, you should have stayed at 147 because Rashidi Ellis is a welterweight. He should not even consider going up to 154 to fight Boots. It's ridiculous. And plus, you know, I'm not gonna pocket watch, and I don't know exactly what his biggest purse is, but why fight Boots for 250? Nah, stay at welterweight, build your career back up. Because Rashidi Ellis is a good fighter. He's still like he's not young, you know. He's not young. He's 32 years old. But I mean, look, Rashidi Ellis lost to Roman Villa back in January 2023. He's been doing a good job, just fighting on some shows, getting active again. He's got 3 wins. He's got 3 wins since October of last year. So he's getting active again. He's fighting often. He's getting sharp. Let that man, you know, had the opportunity to build his career at his actual weight class. Don't sell yourself out for a check when you could potentially fight for more if you just keep winning and be a welterweight, you know, and you'll have a better chance at welterweight because it's your weight class. One thing about Rashidi, good fighter, you know, obviously it's in the name, Speedy Rashidi. He has a lot of speed, but Rashidi Ellis, really and truthfully, he's always been a guy that, you know, I'm gonna say after like 5 rounds, he does tend to fade. His punches, you know, his opponents get used to seeing the speed of his punches, and he can fade down the stretch. So, you know, that's already a problem for him at 47. You put on 7 more pounds of Rashidi, you're not going to really give him the best chance to win. And I think when you're talking about moving a fighter, and I always think from the perspective of moving these fighters, you want to give your fighter the best chance to win, and you know, he just doesn't have the best chance to win against Boots. So, you know, I had to like do a double take because I couldn't believe that after all this pump faking and talking about we're gonna go to 154 because this was a smoke at, and Brian Norman is trash and this, that, and the third. I really thought that Boots was gonna come to 154, and maybe this is me being delusional, maybe this is me being optimistic, but I really thought. Part of me wanted to believe that, you know what, Boots is going to come to 154 and he's going to come with a vengeance. You know, now he don't got to cut all this weight. He's going to retain more of his power and strength. There's not going to be any need to waste time. He'll go fight Virgil. He'll go fight maybe a Bakram. He'll go fight someone. But, you know, but then once I got past my optimistic thoughts, if you guys watched the live that I did with Sean Tattel after the Brian Norman Jr. and Jin Suzuki fight, I said in that live, I said, look, Boots is going to go the WBA route and fight Yoenis Telis, and that looks like exactly what he's going to do. And, like, Yoenis Telis is a good young fighter, but I think he's the weakest champion of the bunch. That's why Boots is going that direction. So he's taking the path of least resistance, and it's very on brand for how he's moved his career, you know. But, yeah, I hate the Rashidi Ellis. But I absolutely hate, detest, and loathe the Rashidi Ellis fight. And the fact that it was already bad enough he tried to make an offer to Josh Kelly, who, by the way, he's a European level fighter at best. He's not even like a world level fighter like that. You try to fight Josh Kelly, who already got beat the fuck up by David Avanesyan. David Avanesyan already took care of Josh Kelly years ago, but you trying to fight Josh Kelly. So that was already bad enough on its own. But to me, this is even more diabolical. Trying to fight Speedy Rashidi, who really is a welterweight. And I've heard the arguments because before this live, I was listening to Mill City Boxing. Shout out to Mill City Boxing, Lowell, Massachusetts. Mill City, stand up. I got family in Lowell. I used to spend time in Lowell, so I know all about where Mill City's from. But nonetheless, I was listening to Mill City, and he had Brian Noman Sr. and Greg Hackett, two people that I like and I get along with, and I think they're fun to talk to and they're fun for boxing. But like, I just don't get it. I was listening to it, and it just sounds like there's no how do I say this? There's no cohesion with anybody on Team Ennis. How do we get to this point? How do we get to the point, Boots Ennis? I feel like, Boots Ennis and Norman had the same manager. They both started off the same. They're both managed by Cameron Duncan, right? And Cameron Duncan was one of the most masterful boxing managers there is. And, eventually he passed away. They both got out of their contracts with him. And, one guy has made every attempt to try and put himself on the map as one of the biggest stars in American boxing, and the other guy continues to take the path of least resistance and continues to shoot himself in the foot in ways that I haven't seen since Demetrius Andrade. So it's just very, very alarming. It's very, very alarming to see from Jaron Ennis. But I digress. I digress. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But let me see. Let me go to the comments, man. I know I'm rambling. I'm all over the place right now. I got a lot of thoughts. I actually lost my train of thought because there was a point I was going to make. I was listening to Mill City, and they said something, but I forgot. I lost my train of thought because sometimes my mind thinks too fast. But I'm sure it'll come back. And in the meantime, let me go to the chat because I see I got like 20. Was it 20? Is it 25 comments? We got 25 comments. Let me see. We got my man. Who else? We got my man. Boston Providence says Boots will not fight. Ooh, he said he's ducking Rashidi Ellis. He created. These days, I don't know what to expect anymore. I peeped that Eddie keeps trying to negotiate before the public and sending offers, short line offers. Yeah, well, I mean, it ain't the first time he's done this. He's done this many times. He did it with Andrade. He's done it with Devin. He's done it with a lot of fighters in the past. He does this so that, he'll negotiate fights to the media, and then he'll say, well, we made an offer, they turn the fight down, and then it can justify whoever they're trying to fight. It'll justify the fact that they're going to fight whoever they want to fight. You know what, guys? Look, I'm going to skip ahead. Because my man Boog Williams came here, and, I got to give Boog some credit. Boog is in the know, as I'm in the know. And I was gonna get to this point in the last part of my life, but fuck it. I'm just gonna skip it. I'm gonna skip, talking about Conwell and Katzourakis and Kelly. I can always go back to it, but I'm gonna get to the main part of the live. So look, my man. Well, before I get to the super chat, look, I'm gonna tell y'all what I was told, right? And I'm sure Boog was told this too, because he just super chatted what I was told. Because I was told, I'm gonna show you guys. I can show you guys what I can tell you. Now I won't tell you who told me. All right. I won't tell you who told me, the great ones, they don't reveal those sources. But, there was a fifth guy that got an offer. We know it's been publicly known that Kelly, Conwell, Ellis, and Katzourakis got offers. But the fifth guy, I'm going to show you guys this. Look, so I was messaged this I was messaged a couple hours before this live, and I was also messaged yesterday some information about who Boots is going to fight next. So you guys ready? I'm going to show y'all what I was told. Now, nothing's been finalized. This may not happen, but I was told that this is what's going to happen. So if it does happen, you guys heard it from myself. You heard it from Boog Williams in the chat. That's where you heard it, right? So nonetheless, look. So yesterday, and as you guys can see, this is from yesterday, right? So I got a message from somebody that I know on Twitter. And he said, hey, BT, I heard that Usima Lima got offered the Jaron Ennis fight. And I'm like, first of all, my first reaction was like, who the fuck is Usima Lima? That was the first thing I said. Because I was like, I've seen his name in the rankings, but, I haven't watched him fight. I don't have an opinion. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know where he's from. I don't know anything, right? So I go on BoxRec. I look him up. a little bit, and then I'm like, okay. So then maybe like what it's so I as you guys can see, I'm on the screen. It's 11:04 right now. So about 2 hours ago, you guys can see the time right there on my screen. I got messaged by that same person. He told me, he said, this has just been confirmed to me as on October. It's likely for the interim WBA titles after Talise gets upgraded. Now, for those of you who don't know what this person is talking about, let me break it down for you, right? Because everyone's going on about, Kelly and Katzourakis and Conwell and Ellis, because that's what's being told in public. But I'm gonna tell y'all what I was told, okay? And if it happens, cool. If it doesn't, it is what it is. But I'm gonna show y'all. So look. So right now, as we know, Terrence Crawford is the WBA champion for now because he won that belt from Majimov. But that belt's gonna go vacant when he fights Canelo next month in Las Vegas. When he fights Canelo next month in Las Vegas, Terrence Crawford, or Ioannis Talise, I should say, he's gonna be upgraded from the interim champion to the full champion. So just pretend Terrence Crawford's name is not even there. Your WBA champion is Ioannis Talise, right? So Jaron Ennis comes in ranked at number 2, right? Boots is number 2. If you scroll all the way down, number 10 is who Usima Lima is. So he's telling me that pretty much when they're gonna fight in October, and it's gonna be for the WBA interim title, which would mean that the winner of that fight will become the mandatory for Ioannis Talise later on in the year. Which, by the way, I've been telling you guys since that live on June 19th on Sean's channel. I told you guys, Boots is gonna fight Ioannis Talise. He's not gonna fight Bakram. He's not gonna go and fight Xander. He's not gonna go fight Fundora. He's gonna go fight Ioannis Talise, right? And that's exactly what I've been told he's gonna try to do. So I'll show you guys again in case you didn't see it the first time. Last night, I got hit up by somebody that I know on Twitter that I talked to who's in the know in boxing, who's plugged in, and he said, BT, I heard Usama Lima got offered the Jaron Ennis fight. So that was yesterday. And I didn't know who Usima Lima was. Today, as not even 2 hours ago, you guys see the time. It's 11:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in where I'm at. So I'm talking about not even this is fresh information. This is like this just came on the desk. This just came on the clipboard. Boots will fight Usima Lima for the WBA interim title, and that the winner of that fight will become the mandatory challenger for Ioannis Talise, who will be upgraded to champion once Crawford fights Canelo. So that begs the question: who on God's green earth is Usima Lima? Because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't come on here and I don't tell lies. I don't know who the hell this guy is. I've seen his name in the rankings because when you go on boxing scene a lot, or if you just check the rankings a lot, you start to memorize names and see names. So, but just because I see the names doesn't mean I've seen him fight or know anything about him. So he's 14-1. He's from Angola. I don't know no boxers from Angola, or not many. I can't think of any off top. You can tell me in the chat if you know any boxers from Angola. But he's from Angola. Seems to have some knockout power. Hasn't really fought anybody other than Aaron McKenna. I know who Aaron McKenna is because I follow enough British boxing to know that name. So I know who Aaron McKenna is. But yeah, and of course, the only guy that I know on his resume is the only guy he's lost to. So I had to go back and I had to go watch some Usima Lima before I came on. And he's a decent little fighter. He's southpaw, likes the pressure, can punch a little bit. But man, you want to talk about a cherry pick? You want to talk about like really scraping the bottom of the barrel? This is that. So I don't even really want to give too much stock into the other fighters because I really trust this guy. And Boog Williams, I trust him. I mean, he's gotten a lot of things right on Twitter as well. So yeah, man. Y'all let me know what you think. What do you think about Jaron Ennis versus Usima Lima? Is this a fight that you're excited about? Like, is this the fight that is going to prove Jaron Ennis's pound for pound greatness to the world? What do you guys think? Let me go to that chat because I know I already know there's got to be some really interesting comments. Let me see. I got like 25 comments. Let me go ahead and go to the chat. Let me see. But shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash that like button. Your boy BT. True School After Dark. HBO Boxing After Dark got canceled, so now it's True School After Dark, The Untouchable After Dark, The Home of Boxing After Dark. So here we go. Let me go to the chat right now. Who else we got here? Who else we got? Anyway, let me go ahead and finally read the super chat because I seen Boog Williams just lighting up the comment section with this. So I said, fuck it. Let me get that out the way before I actually read his comment. So he said, break down the Jaron Ennis Usima Lima fight. Now look, Boog, I've got very limited knowledge on Usima Lima. I just watched him fight for the first time, like not even an hour ago. Southpaw matchup. The guy doesn't really move, which I think is going to bode very well for Boots. The Boots fans don't like when I bring these fights up, but I have to bring it up because it's the only other than the what's that guy's name, Sosa. Boots fought a guy years ago named Sosa that hurt him when he was fighting on those club shows. But other than that fight, this guy has probably exposed the most weaknesses in Boots, which is Karen. Karen showed that Boots has a hard time cutting off the ring, and Boots always tends to look good against these non-athletic fighters that hold their feet and allow him to plant his feet and get off of them. So when I didn't have to watch Usima Lima too much to know that that's kind of what he is. That is what he is. He's gonna be right there for Boots. Don't expect him to move like Karen. Don't expect him to have a versatile punch selection like Brian Norman Jr. That's just not what he does. So I'm sure it'll be a fight where he looks good and he should produce a highlight reel, but there's not really much to break down. It's a cherry pick, and it makes him look like one of the biggest duckers in the whole sport. And there's no two ways about it. You can't sit here and say that all these guys are ducking Jaron Ennis. At some point in time, it gets to a point where Jaron Ennis and the entire team and Eddie Hearn have to get on one accord. They got to tell Eddie Hearn, look, if you got to overpay guys to get in the ring, do what you did with Stanionis. Do it, obviously not like you're not gonna pay Charles Conwell what 1.7 or 2 million, whatever it was that they paid to get Stanionis in there. But what I'm saying is you pay them what's necessary. If you gotta pay them above market value to get them in the ring, you do that. That's what Tom Loeffler had to do back in the day when Tom Loeffler had Golovkin and he couldn't get Sergio Martinez, he couldn't get Miguel Cotto to fight Golovkin. They had to overpay these guys like Marco Antonio Rubio, David Lemieux, whoever, just to keep Golovkin active. You have to. It gets to a point where the promoter has to believe in the talent, and the talent can't be coddled. When the promoter makes the investment, that the talent has to actually go ahead. The fighter has to go ahead and be like, you know what? Okay, I'm stepping up to the plate. I'm going to show the world that I'm really like that. But what happens with fighters, guys, is that when fighters start making real money, fighting guys that really aren't that good, they become a little coddled. They become a little soft, and they don't want to actually fight any real smoke. And it's like, it kind of goes to I'm gonna go to a tweet that Rick Laser tweeted. I'm gonna quote Rick Laser. So I know people ain't gonna like this, but it is what it is. I feel like it's relevant to the live. It's like Rick Laser said, right? Rick Laser said it best. So Rick Laser had this tweet, it was yesterday or earlier today. He said, and I quote, "A real boxing guy told me Boots Ennis is so baby it's crazy. He's spoon-fed and wait till he fights someone that's coming to win and punches back at 154. Then we'll find out what Boots is about. It will be a rude awakening, and he'll need to learn how to pick himself up off the canvas." Yeah, and it's like the old saying goes, guys, iron sharpens iron. If you keep fighting these stiffs, if you keep fighting these fighters who are not on your level, what eventually happens is the blade, your skill set begins to not be as sharp as it normally is. And you might find yourself in a fight with a guy who can punch, who maybe he lands a lucky shot. Maybe Jaron Ennis forgets to roll the shots. And he might get clipped the wrong way once. And then all of a sudden he's in a fight that he really shouldn't be losing, but now he might lose the fight, and he's got to go to a place that he hasn't gone to before. And sometimes what happens with fighters is that when they get taken to that place, now they don't know how to go to that place because they've never been there, and they haven't really been fighting anybody to keep them sharp and be the best version of themselves. So I really do fear that that's what's happening with him. And yeah, so Usima Lima, that looks like it could be the next big fight. Philadelphia stand up. Are y'all gassed for Usima Lima? Philadelphia versus Angola, the new rivalry in boxing. Pedro Cabrales says that he respects the Greek guy because he has a win over Brendan Adams on his resume. You know what? Let's talk about him for a second, because I'm not going to profess to be some Andre Katzourakis expert. I've only seen highlights from that fight. But I do know who Brendan Adams is. I do know who Brendan Adams is. And if you have a win over Brendan Adams, that means you can fight. Because what do we know about Brandon Adams? We know that Brandon Adams knocked the daylights out of Sergey Boychuk about 4 years ago. So, and Brandon Adams is taking charge of the distance. Brandon Adams is very good. So this is Andre Katzourakis. Now, from the initial report, let's just say it's not Usim Lima. Let's say Boots is not going to fight that killer from Angola, right? Let's just assume that we have to pick between Conwell, Ellis, Conwell, Ellis, Kelly, and Katzourakis. I'll pick Andre. You want to know why? Because Andre has already stepped into the plate. He's been in a tournament. He beat a really good fighter in Brandon Adams to win that tournament. He actually also beat Kudratilo Abdulkakarov, who many of you guys may remember years ago. He was the guy that was like #1 in the IBF that Earl Spence didn't fight, but he was there for years. He was there for years, but couldn't get the Earl Spence fight. But he beat him. So Brandon Adams, having that one in your resume, to me, it validates him. And, you know, from what I know about Andre, he comes forward. He's an action fighter. So, you know, that kind of fits like what Boots does well against guys that come and fight. And, you know, I'm okay with this fight. If he were to pick Andre Katzourakis, it wouldn't do a whole lot for him in terms of, you know, like public perception, because the reality is that Andre is not very known right now. Like, we know who Andre. Some of this chat may know who he is because we watch boxing. We're boxing degenerates. We love this sport, but to the casuals, to the people that just barely know boxing at all, they're not gonna know who this guy is because he just hasn't put his name on the map to that degree yet. Doesn't mean he can't fight. It's just that if you're Jaron Ennis, you've had 34 fights of just pretty much, like, I don't want to say, pretty with the exception of Stanionis and a couple other fights, pretty much nothing. Like, it's been pretty much nothing in terms of substance. It's been about 3 or 4 really good fights, 3 or 4 good fights for Boots, tops, and maybe even 4 is generous. I'm okay with this fight if they're to make it happen, because Andre to me has already validated himself by beating Brandon Adams. I would even say, I won't go that far. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think about Andre Katzourakis versus Boots? I like that fight. I think that's a fight that should be explored. It sounds like they're exploring it because they made him an offer. What do y'all think? Man, so let me go ahead and acknowledge my man Boog's comment. I see a lot of comments from Boog. He says, Talis versus Baroda on 823. Winner gets elevated. Boots. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, because I know Talis is gonna fight that guy. And okay, but he should beat that guy. He'll beat that guy, and then But either way, the whole point I'm trying to make is Boots is going to the NBA route. So there you go. Money Motivated said Greg Hackett said that Rashidi's last fight's been at middleweight. His last fight. Well, the thing is, look, I have friends that are fought in team. I have, like, let me see, 1, 2, Eric Lances Jr., Joseph Marcelo. I've got like 3 or 4 people I know, Lorenzo Medina. I got like 3 or 4 people I know personally that have fought in Team Combat League, and they don't give a fuck about none of that stuff, bro. They're fighting in one round. You're only fighting in Team Combat League for a round, so they don't care about weight cuts as much. So it doesn't matter if Rashidi Ellis is fought at middleweight in Team Combat League. It doesn't make him a middleweight. You're only fighting one round. Fighting in one round, 2 weight classes above your natural fighting weight, is not the same as fighting 12 rounds. So, yeah, he may have fought at middleweight, but he's not a middleweight. So you can't justify dragging him up from 47 to 54 just because you want to get Boots the most favorable outcome possible. My man said, Jazz says, I swear, American fighters never want to take challenges. So many good fights to make. Boots could be building a hell of a resume, and so could Shakur. Tank said, well, don't generalize the stars and stripes, okay? There's plenty of fighters in America taking challenges. Look at Ricardo Sandoval. He went to Japan and fought Kenshiro Taraji. You know, I don't think he won, but, you know, he went there and he fought him. He stepped to the plate. Look at a guy like look at Devin Haney and Brian Newman Jr. They're stepping up to the plate to fight each other, you know, so they gotta be respected. Look at Angelo Leo. He's stepping up to the plate. There's plenty of fighters in America that are stepping up to the plate and making fights happen. But it seems like the ones that get all the fanfare, like your Jaron Ennis, like your Shakur, like your Tanks, these kind of guys, they're not stepping up to the plate. Virgil Ortiz, he's stepping up to the plate. Like Virgil Ortiz, he's fought plenty of guys stepping up to the plate, you know. So I think there's plenty of American fighters who do take tough fights. But yeah, it seems to be a theme. Let me see. I only heard of him this year. He has a good stat, winning 3 fights in a row where he was underdog in terms of the betting lines. Yeah, well, he's fought himself into contention. He's fought himself into contention, and that's what boxing's all about. You never know who's gonna come up and make a name for himself. So he's made a name for himself. So that's why he's in the running. He wanted a tune-up fight, bro. His whole career has been a tune-up fight, damn near. Frederick Lawson so we're gonna play that game now. We're gonna play. Okay, well, Virgil had tune-ups, so why can't Boots get tune-ups, bro? Virgil almost died. Virgil had rhabdomyosis and literally had a medical condition and almost died. Boots just fought Standing Honest, looked like $1 million, and really and truthfully, like, he should be stepping up to the plate and fighting better guys than the guys he's trying to fight. So, get your tune-up if you want, but something tells me that he's not going to fight anybody worth a damn for about 1.5 years. Maybe. It might even be longer. That boy, Jaron Ennis, escaped the dumpster to pick his next opponent. That's what I'm saying, because, like, I look at the rankings, so I know the name. I know the name. I've seen his name, but I'm not gonna act like I know a ton about Usima Lima. I just know that he's ranked, and I found out he's from Angola. I didn't know Angola had boxing, so that's news to me. I didn't know Angola had boxing. George Sosa, yeah, the guy Sosa he fought. Who do I realistically want Boots to fight now? I don't want him to fight Usima Lima, and I don't want him to fight Josh Kelly. You know what? I would be okay with it. And you guys know I don't like. You guys know I can't stand Israel Madrimov. Y'all know I don't think a whole lot of Israel Madrimov, but I would accept it. You choose. He chose going 54. So if I'm picking for the 54 fighters, I'd be okay with Madrimov. It's better than the guys he's fighting. But really, the only actual answer is Brian Norman Jr. I feel like he should have stayed at 147 to fight Brian Norman Jr. because I feel like he put himself behind the 8 ball. He put himself behind the 8 ball. Now he's just a guy. He's a jag. He's just another guy at 54. Until he gets a belt, he's a jag. He's just another guy. He don't got no leverage to negotiate. Eddie Hearn's gonna offer his opponents less money because he don't got a title. He's not a champion. At least at 47, he had a belt. He was in a position where it was the fight to make in the division. Now he's just one of the guys, and he has to win possibly 2 or 3 fights to become a guy with leverage in the division. So I just think it was a dumb move. Everyone keeps saying like he couldn't make the weight anymore, and maybe that is true. Maybe I'm just being harsh, and maybe that is true. But I just have a hard time believing it because when he said that. When he fought Standing Honest, he said the weight was fine. He had no problems. He felt good. He felt great. Then he waited literally to the day of Norman Tazaki to announce it, and I feel like he was being petty. And that's what I'm choosing to believe. But hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully he couldn't actually make the weight because that's the fight he should be at right now. Let me see who else we got here. Shout out to everybody here. I see I missed a lot of comments, so I want to keep it. I want to keep it on Boots right now because there's a lot. Philly versus Angola, yeah, that's the new rivalry in boxing. Philly versus Japan, that's old. That's played out. That's 2023. We want Philly versus Mexico. That's like 1990s. Who cares about Chavez and Meldrick Taylor? We want Philly and Angola. That's what we need in boxing. Shout out to my boy, the Falling Star, out in Japan. He says, "Who do you think is Mr. Honda's value more?" Now, I don't want to turn this into a Bam Junto thing, but I'll answer your question because I like the Falling Star. He says, "Who do you think Mr. Honda values more in Bam or Junto? Which fighter have to lose first? Mr. Honda consider letting them fight." I would think Junto would have to lose first. Because Junto is the Japanese guy, right? And ultimately, Mr. Honda's a Japanese promoter, so. I think he would have to lose first, but that's just me. Well, good to see you, champ. We got another super chat from my man Edgar Allah. Shout out to Edgar. He says, "BT, can Rolly beat Barrios in a PBC unification fight?" Can Rolly beat Barrios? Yeah, I think as crazy as it sounds, yeah, I think he could beat Barrios. Barrios doesn't have the fastest feet. He's tall, but he doesn't necessarily fight tall. I think Rolly could outbox Barrios. I don't know if he'll knock him out, but I think he could outbox him. As Rolly showed in the fights with Ryan Garcia and Manuel James. You know, if you're cement footed and you don't know what you're doing, Rolly can outbox you. You know, so if I had to make, could he knock him out possibly? But I would go with a Rolly. I think Rolly could beat him by decision. I think that'd be his like best path to victory in that potential matchup if we're talking about them guys. Now I see a lot of you guys mentioning Jesus Ramos, right? I like the Jesus Ramos fight. I feel like, you know what? Let's go with that one. If there was a fight that realistically, because I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't heard Jesus Ramos announce a fight. I haven't heard anything. I would love Boots to fight Jesus Ramos. I still view Jesus Ramos as an undefeated fighter. I think Jesus Ramos is one of the best fighters in the division who's not currently champion. And that to me would be the perfect way to go. But you know, we can't have that because we gotta get to this Philadelphia versus Angola, the new rivalry in boxing. We don't want Philly versus Mexico. We don't want none of that. That's old. Let's all keep in mind Lima is not ranked in the WBA at all. Lima is only ranked in the IBF and WBC. Nah, he's ranked number 10 in the WBA. You're tripping. If you go, I can show it to you on the screen, but if he's literally ranked at number 10 in the WBA, so that's the Boots' highest ranking. That's what he's going to target. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately for you, he is ranked there. Beer Merrill says, I'm from Philly, but I call like I see it. Yeah, man. It's not looking good, man. Isn't Lubin fighting Murtazaliev? He's supposed to because they've ordered it, but nothing's been made yet. Truthfully, like that's who I've said this before, but I'll say it again. That's who I feel Boots should be running to. I feel like they should be running to Murtazaliev. I know nobody's running to Murtazaliev, but I feel like Boots is such a talented fighter. He's so good. He don't need to do none of this tune-up stuff. Like Boots is strong. Boots is big as shit for 147. He's gonna retain a bunch of power and strength at 54. To me, a tune-up doesn't make any sense because Boots has the skills. Boots, you know, he just can't. He's coming off his biggest win. He's sharp right now, so you want to keep that going. And Bakram is good, but he's not like stylistically. He's not a guy that I think is like the hardest style in the world for Boots to work out. It's just a matter of, you know, could Boots take the power, which, you know, that's probably the biggest question about that fight because we don't really know what Boots' chin is like because Boots hasn't really fought many punchers. I mean, who is the biggest puncher Boots fought? You guys tell me. Jesus Ramos should fight Law. Yeah. I think Ramos should fight someone. If it's not, you know, if I was Boots, that Ramos, maybe I guess Brian Mendoza. You know, I joked around about him fighting Brian Mendoza back on June 19th on Sean's channel. He's moving very questionable, and I've seen this movie before with Andreas, and I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying the sequel. It's not fun because like Boots to me, as time goes on, he's becoming Andreas with more fanfare. Like Andreas just didn't have as many fans as Boots. I feel like Boots has more people that like him, bigger fan base than Andreas. But it don't change the fact that he's moving just like him. It's the same shit. But shout out to everybody here. A lot of you guys, some people were talking about Conwell, like BT. Why are you hating on Boots for the Conwell fight? Because Conwell's a good fighter. You know, people like you were calling him the boogeyman and this, that, and the third. And I wasn't calling him the boogeyman. I was calling him what he is. I was calling him for what he is. I was calling him a higher risk, low reward fighter because he was. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of money in fighting Charles Conwell. But unfortunately, he didn't do his job. Golden Boy did their job. He didn't do his job. And he didn't beat Jorge Garcia, so that's why he didn't get the title shot. But boxing's all about timing. Like he just lost. So it's gonna look, no matter how good of a fight, it could be stylistic. Because stylistically, like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I know it's a good fight stylistically. I know that you know, Conwell is explosive. I know Conwell could maybe even test the chin of Boots if he lands cleanly, but he's coming off of a loss, and it's just not a good look on Boots to come to 54, his first fight, and fight a guy coming off of a loss in Conwell. Now, let Conwell win a fight or two, then it becomes a more of a discussion to make, but he hasn't won any fights since he lost to Jorge Garcia, whatever his name was. So, yeah. But yeah, good fight. And then Josh Kelly, I mean, do I gotta really speak on Josh Kelly again? I told y'all what was gonna happen. He was gonna try to fight Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly is a European level fighter, so that's the news, guys. Like, I pretty much just ran through my talking points for Boots and what he's gonna do and what's being reported and what's being told to me and all this and this, that, and the third. And now we just sit back and we watch. We sit back, we watch, we chill, and we'll be talking about it accordingly because, the reality is, we care about Jaron Ennis in American boxing. He's one of the most talented fighters from the USA. But what do they say in the Bronx Tale? They said the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. And if what I'm being told, if what Boog is being told is true, then man, he's wasting his talent fighting Usima Lima, doing Philly versus Angola. Can't believe we're gonna have Philly versus Angola. That's the new rivalry in boxing. Y'all like that? Philly versus Angola. Yeah, Philly versus Angola. Stand up. I don't think he's a boogeyman, but I see Conwell as a possible dark horse at 154. He still is. He still is. He has to dust himself off. I'm not gonna give him a death sentence because he lost, because a true champion can come back from a loss. But we got to see. My man Fee wants to know, when is Angelo Leo, my boy? When is Angelo Leo fighting again? Right now, there's nothing locked in. There's a couple names being thrown around, which I won't say here on the live, but there's a couple names being thrown around. But there's he's got to hash some things out, because from my understanding, he's a free agent. So we'll see what happens, what direction he goes. But I've heard a couple names, but right now nothing's locked in. When something gets locked in, you'll hear about it here. Let me see. Man, BT, do you think Andy Hiroka is going to get a shot at the title? It seems like he's being boxed out at 140. It definitely seems like that. I think he will, but it's not going to be handed to him, and it's not going to happen right away. He has to continue to win and win impressive. He has to get to a place where whenever he fights, he has to become a guy that people demand to see fight. Like, every time, he needs to deliver the same performance he gave against Barroso. Just keep doing that over and over and over again, because if you leave it to Gary Anton Russell, because I was listening to Gary Anton Russell, I heard an interview he did recently. Somebody sent me an interview. Somebody showed me an interview he did recently where he was talking about that fight. And I'm not saying that Gary's avoiding him, but Gary don't really sound like that's on his immediate to-do list, So he has to make himself so Boots has to be sick in a hospital to get a tune-up. I got it. But okay, whatever. I'm not going back and forth with you. I thought Leo was a pro box fighter. He was signed to pro box, and then Top Rank had options on his contract when he beat Venado. But from my understanding, those options expired after a certain amount of time. So now, after the Kameda fight, he just became an outright free agent. So he's not signed to Top Rank or pro box. So who knows what he'll do? I don't even know. I haven't talked to Angelo or Miguel in weeks. I have to call Angelo and Miguel very soon, but I haven't talked to them in weeks. I've been just in my own lane, focused on my content, That's only the case because Gary wants to unify. Stop excluding context. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not as immediate to do this because he's the champion. Like, if you're for every champion, not just Gary, for every champion, the immediate to do list is always unification. If it's not unification, then you always check and see if you have a mandatory. If you fulfilled your mandatory obligation, then you look at the top 15 and you see who it is you and your team feel is a good option, and you fight them. It's not that hard to figure out. But I don't think Gary's fighting Matias next, because Matias is gonna fight Dalton Smith. Hitchens, Gary could be a fight, but I don't think it'll be a fight next either. So I don't think he's gonna fight Hiroka. But I think Hiroka should definitely get his shot. I feel like Hiroka should get his shot. He's a very good fighter with a couple really good wins. Angelo Leo's trying to get into the Japan-Mexico card for December. The one in Saudi, I'm sure he'll get it. I'm sure it's an option, It's definitely an option. He'll beat a lot of guys. I feel like Andy's a very good fighter. He'll beat a lot of guys. Me and my boy Hyro, and I'm surprised I haven't seen my boy Hyro in the chat. Hyro, if you're here in the chat, make yourself known. But Me and Harold, my boy Harold, had this joke because Andy Hiroko, he did grow up in Japan, but like his dad is part African, so he doesn't look like a traditional Japanese person. So we joke around and say that like Mr. Honda and Ohashi, they're not really putting that push behind him like they do for the other guys because he's not fully Japanese. But it's a joke. But who knows? You never know these days. Might be true. Who knows? But let me see. We got a lot of interesting comments. Shout out to everybody here rocking with your boy BT. It's True School After Dark. I saw one comment I wanted to get to. My man Nesty Official. He says, I need to see Seigo Yuriakui versus Ricardo Sandoval. That's a good fight, man. That's a hell of a fight. Sandoval, now I got to be honest. I like Sandoval. I've always thought highly of him as a fighter, and it was nice to see him have his moment against Kenshiro. But I went back last night and I watched the fight, and I was trying to give Sandoval as many rounds as possible. I really don't see how he won that fight. Like I thought Kenshiro outworked him, landed the harder shots, backed him up. I think Sandoval just had such low expectations that he was getting a lot of credit just for being in the fight, and I think you guys need to rewatch the fight. If you haven't rewatched it, go rewatch it. I thought Kenshiro won pretty clearly, but that's neither here nor there. To address your comment, Sandoval versus Yuriakui would be an awesome fight. Unlike Kenshiro, I think Seigo Yuriakui is a bit more defensively responsible. He's very fundamentally sound. I'm not sure what he'll look like because him and Kenshiro had the war for the ages. Like they went ahead and killed each other, So after those kind of fights, fighters are oftentimes never the same, and it could very, very well be the case in that fight. You know what I'm saying? So we probably won't see Gary Antarussell until the top of 2026. Y'all know how PBC is. That's probably how it's gonna go. He'll probably chill. Yeah. Shout out to Hyro. Yeah, me and Hyro, we rewatched that fight last night, and like it was like I don't know how they gave that fight to Sandoval, but it's boxing. I have my theories as to why, but he got the nod. Congrats to the new champion. He's a really great fighter. I'm happy he had his moment. BT, do you think Devin Haney has an actual chance to beat Norman? Of course. I have a video coming out like in I don't know when. I haven't scheduled. It's a 21-minute breakdown. Like I got a whole 21-minute breakdown. So stay tuned for that whenever it comes out. But just to give you I think he's got a chance. Devin's got good boxing skills. I think the question is going to be is how much power and energy and strength will Devin Haney retain, and will that power and strength be enough to keep Brian Norman Jr. honest when he hits him? Because if he can't keep Brian Norman honest, I think he's going to be in for a very, very long night. Brian Norman does have a very good jab. He's not just some, front foot dominant bum. Like the guy actually has real skills. He's very well rounded, and he's getting better every single fight. He's gotten a lot of good experience against different styles. I know you could probably say his last 3 fights. Giovanni Santillan was an aggressive, come forward, volume, Chicano fighter, right? Derek Cuevas was a hard punching counter puncher. Jintazaki was just an outright gunslinger who didn't care, right? So 3 different styles in those 3 fights. Before those fights, he fought Janelson Figueroa, who was a counter puncher, and then he fought Quentin Randall, who's super long and makes everyone look bad. So he's learned a lot in these last 5 fights. So yeah, I think I'm picking Brian Norman. I made it no secret. Like anybody who's asking, I made it no secret. I'm picking Brian Norman. But yeah, I think Devin has a chance. Devin has to be very, very sharp and bank as many of the early rounds as possible. And I think Devin Haney, when he does fight, he better have some answers for when he has to fight in the pocket, because mark my words, he's going to have to fight in the pocket at some point in this fight. When is my next visit to Japan? That's a great question. I'm not trying to travel the rest of 2026. I'm capping my traveling for the rest of the year. I've done a lot of traveling over the last 2 years, and I'm really just want to, not go nowhere for a while, and work on my health and other things in my life. But if I had to give you a guess, when am I going back to Japan again? I would say I would say as early as April of next year and as late as July. But with boxing, things change from day to day. So I could tell you what I think when I think I'm gonna go, but something could always come up. So you never know. But I would say sometime between April and July next year. I'm not trying to go do too much traveling for a while. Norman hasn't fought a slick boxer since Randall. Well, Randall's not really like, I wouldn't classify Randall as slick. He's not really slick. He's more rangy than he is slick because he fights you off that long rangy frame. But he's not really like a guy that parries shots or has upper body movement where he's slipping shots. He's not really slick. He's rangy and he knows how to be a spoiler, but he's not really slick. Brian Norman has fought enough fighters to know, and he's seen enough different styles to know the value of a jab and setting your punches up. And Devin Haney's foot speed, I think, from hearing people talk about the fight, because I've heard people on Twitter, I see it every day on Twitter, people breaking down the fight. They're like, oh, well, Devin has the advantage in foot speed, right? And he may have an advantage in foot speed, but it ain't by as much as you think, and it's not by enough to where he's going to be able to avoid actually having a fight throughout the fight. So I'm looking forward to seeing if Devin Haney has any answers in the pocket when he does fight Brian Norman Jr. Yo, BT, if you go to the Philippines, you should link up with Powcast. He has all the connections. Okay, when I go there, we talked about that on the last live. Potential future travels for me, and yeah, I definitely want to go to the Philippines at some point. Check out the boxing scene out there. You say Andy Hiroko looks like a Minecraft character. I never played Minecraft, so that went over my head. Doesn't Puel have a rematch clause as well? He does, but see, this is where the authoritarianism of Turki Al-Sheikh is running rampant in boxing. Turki is saying that Puel is being promised to fight the winner of the fight, right? Which may be true, but if he had a rematch clause in the contract, then he should get his damn rematch, right? Because it's in the contract. But Turki's saying no. Subriel got to fight Dalton Smith, and really and truthfully, I don't want to see Subriel Matias fight Dalton Smith or Puello again. I'd rather see Subriel Matias run it with Hitchens. That's the fight I'm trying to see. But it's boxing. BT, am I Blasian? No, I'm not. I'm not Blasian. I'm not Asian at all. Actually, my dad's Puerto Rican. My mom is Dominican and Cuban, but I was born in America, the good old states. I was born in the USA. So if you just ask me, I'll just tell you I'm an American. But if you're talking about heritage wise, where a family comes from, those are the places. Shout out to everybody here. Rock with me. Make sure you guys get your comments in. Definitely go ahead and smash that like button, super chat. We got a lot of good comments here. Let me see. We got my man JW says, if Haney beats Norman Jr., is his resume better than T.O.'s, and is it Hall of Fame caliber? Now, I've said this in my videos. I think, you know what? I'll get to the second part of the question later on, but that first part of the question is very interesting because Devin Haney, right now, I don't think he's got any wins on his resume that are better than Lomachenko or Josh Taylor, right? When T.O. fought them. But, because boxing, you guys don't understand, boxing is a lot of times it's not about who you fight, but it's when you fight them, right? So if Devin would have fought Brian Norman Jr., let's say a year ago, right? He wouldn't get anywhere close to the credit that he's getting now because Brian Norman Jr. has clearly developed and had some great performances and shown himself to be a fighter at a high caliber. He's fought himself into being someone that deserves to be talked about, and he's become one of those fighters that boxing fans are getting excited to see when he fights in the ring. Brian Norman is a younger fighter than Devin Haney. He's bigger than Devin Haney, and he's a harder puncher than Devin Haney. And I don't know if you could say he's in his prime, but he's closer to his prime than, let's say, a guy like Lomachenko was, or even a Josh Taylor was when T.O. fought those guys. So if Devin Haney goes up and beats a bigger, younger, stronger guy to become a 3-time champion, then I think there's a valid case to say that his resume could be better than Teofimo Lopez's when you factor in that he did that, and he's been undisputed. Some people will say Teofimo was undisputed because you have the whole no franchise argument. I'm not really here for that, but he's undisputed and there's no question about it. T.O., there's gray areas that weren't his fault because of the WBC and these kind of things, but yeah. And then as far as is Devin Haney a Hall of Fame caliber fighter, I've already said it. I said if Devin Haney beats Brian Norman Jr., in my opinion, that's the best win of his career because, in my opinion, he's never been in a fight like Brian Norman Jr., fighting a younger, stronger, bigger fighter in his prime. He's never fought a guy like that. So if he goes to his third division and beats this guy who's the number one guy in the weight class, I think it is worthy of potentially, getting him over the hump to be a Hall of Famer. People may say, well, BT, how could he be a Hall of Famer when he's not beating a guy that you would say is a Hall of Fame caliber fighter? Norman hasn't proven to be a Hall of Fame caliber fighter yet. But like I said, Devin is a guy who's coming up from a smaller weight class, right? Even though he may not be a smaller guy, because Devin's, he ain't no small fighter. But the fact that he's going up here with no tune-ups, like, think about this. This is why you got to respect Devin Haney, because he's not doing what Jaron Ennis is trying to do. He's going right to the smoke. He believes in himself enough to say, you know what? Okay, I ain't fought at 47 yet, but I believe in my abilities. I got that conviction in my skills. I know I can beat you. Now, do I think Devin's going to beat Brian Norman Jr.? No, I don't. I think he's going to get stopped in about 7 rounds. But if he beats him, then yeah, you got to give him his due. You got to give him his flowers. And mind you, I don't love Devin Haney. I don't hate. I'm indifferent towards Devin. This Norman fight is honestly the first time in my entire time covering Devin Haney on YouTube that I can actually say that I'm excited for a Devin Haney fight. Norman got to prove a lot more than Haney does. It's easy to knock out sitting ducks. Well, they weren't sitting ducks. Jinsazaki came right to Norman and got knocked the fuck out. And Santion, people like to discredit Brian Norman's win against Santion. Santion was being propped up by Top Rank. He had everything laid out for him to be the next world champion. I know from talking to some of the matchmakers at Top Rank how highly that he was classed by the staff there. And the Top Rank staff is very knowledgeable. He was 32-0. He was the favorite to win that fight. He's a very good fighter. I don't know if Devin could beat a guy like Santion because I've seen Devin fight guys with similar styles to Santion and have trouble. Like Devin fought a smaller southpaw volume puncher years ago in Jojo Diaz, and I was there. I was at the MGM Grand. I vividly remember Jojo Diaz having his fair share of success pushing Devin back. And Giovanni Santion is bigger. He's bigger than Jojo Diaz. He's a smarter fighter than Jojo Diaz, and he's got a better gas tank than Jojo Diaz. I think that would have been a very difficult fight for Devin, but people don't. It's easier to say that we don't know who this guy is and he's a bum and Brian hasn't fought anybody. But I'm with you though. I think Brian hasn't fought a guy on this level yet. That is fair to say because Giovanni Santion, Jinsazaki, Cuevas, these guys do some good things in the ring, but they haven't accomplished what Devin Haney has, and they're not the level of. They haven't mastered the sweet science, and they haven't done what Devin Haney has done in the ring. So I get it. I ain't knocking you for thinking that. Brian Norman 2 years ago versus Jen right now. How would that fight go? Ooh, that's I don't know, man. I think it might have always been the same thing because Jen don't care. They don't think about defense at that gym. It might have always been the same. I hope Jen, come to the States and definitely go ahead and tighten some things up because I think he's got some things you can't teach, but you can't just win. You can't just have balls at the elite level. Otherwise, you're gonna get found out like he did. So, it is what it is. I feel like you have to beat at least one caliber Hall of Fame fighter in their prime to get into the Hall of Fame. That or have a super long championship reign. Well, sometimes some guys don't get blessed. Sometimes you can't control who's in your era. You can't control who's in your division and who are those Hall of Fame caliber guys. Sometimes you just gotta fight the guys that are available to you and dominate them to the best of your abilities, right? So I feel like Norman right now is he's 28-0. He's knocking everyone out. He's regarded right now as the consensus number one welterweight in the world, and Devin Haney's fighting him in 0-2. So for me, if I'm adding that on top of what Devin has already done, being undisputed, being a champion at 140, I think there's a case. I think he's starting to now have a case. He beats Norman to be in the Hall of Fame. That's what I'm saying. And people discredit Giovanni Santion, bro. That's how I know people don't. That's how I know people don't really watch boxing like that. Like people just be chatting every day. Every day I go on Twitter, and you guys have no idea because on Twitter I be wild. Not on Twitter. I have fun on there. I don't take it serious. It's fun for me to go on Twitter and just pop my shit. But like every day I go on Twitter, and you guys have no idea how much I have to like refrain from tweeting people because I have things I gotta do and focus on, so I can't be arguing back and forth. But I see so many people expose themselves for not really watching boxing. Santion, when he fought Rocha, and I'm not claiming that Rocha is this like great welterweight. He was solid. He's a solid, welterweight, decent welterweight. But Santion wasn't expected to win that fight. And if you go and you watch that fight, bro, Giovanni Santion turned into Roy Jones Jr. He hit Rocha with like 5 straight hooks in a row, like he was Roy Jones Jr. And I'm not exaggerating. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I would highly advise that you go and you watch that fight. BT, which young Japanese fighters do you think have high ceilings? Any names outside of Japan that wouldn't be hip to? For example, not popular names like Takami or Reito. The 2 names, the 3 names. I'll give you 3 names. 3 names. And I'll give you in order. I'll give you an order of the guys that I really class highly in Japan that are not like Reito Tsutsumi, who's being pushed by Ring Magazine, or Kaosuke Takami, who just fought and who Tekken Promotions is promoting like crazy. So I would say number 1 would be Yugo Osaki. He's a very good fighter. He's a light flyweight. He's currently ranked top 15 in all the sanctioning bodies. He's got like a style that's kind of he kind of has like a Shakur Stevenson, Bam Rodriguez hybrid type of style. If you go watch him fight, he kind of has a little bit of those guys in his style, but he can also be a volume puncher as well. I like him a lot. I think he could definitely be a 3-division champion at 108, 112, 115. And possibly even 118, but he has to get the fights. And so we'll see what happens with his career. He's really good. Second, I would definitely say there's another fighter named Aoi Yokoyama. He's really good. He's a 112 or 115? I can't remember if he's 112 or 115, but he's like 3-0, and he's already won an OBPF title. So he's going to win a world title like his next 2 fights, probably, or at least fight for one. He's really good. And on top of that, Yokoyama, he doesn't punch like Inoue, but in terms of his actual like boxing style, his movement stuff, I would say he's the fighter in Japan who most closely resembles Inoue as far as his style. He just doesn't punch like him. He doesn't have the finishing of him. And then third will be Yuta Sakai. I think Yuta Sakai is going to be the face of Ohashi Boxing Gym when Naoya Inoue retires. So I would say you go with those 3 and you won't go wrong. Let me see. RC said if Matias fights in November, it will be his 4th fight in the span of a year. Do you think it's too much? It wasn't exactly an easy fight he had in July. That's up to the fighter and the team to decide. Personally, a guy like Matias has to fight often because a guy like Matias is never going to get anything handed to him. So for a guy like him, fighting 4 times is like the dream scenario, because as long as Matias keeps going in there and showing the world that he's that vicious volume puncher and winning these fights, people are going to clamor for him to be in the ring. If he don't fight, if you leave it to the vices of like Richardson Hitchens and Gary Anton Russell and these guys to go ahead and do the right thing and fight him, they would never fight him. So with Matias fighting often, it allows him to keep his market value very high, keep him in the face of boxing fans, keep him in potentially in line for those big fights. And on top of that, it puts pressure on these guys to eventually, go ahead and fight him. So, I don't know if it's too much, but I feel like it is the right thing to do. But they got to pick their opponents, very carefully. Not carefully, but just try to. They have to watch over him in training and know the fighter. You got to know the fighter better than the fighter knows the fighter. BT, why do you think people hate on Kenshiro? People hate on Kenshiro because they hear people like me, right? And they're like, oh, here goes BT with this Japanese shit again. But they hear people like me really talk highly of him, and they don't like that because they didn't really see his entire career. And then they see him on the pound list over guys that they know like Shakur. So they be like, okay, well, this guy is not good. He don't got no defense, this, that, and the third. But even with the loss and I put that in quotation marks, the loss to Ricardo Sandoval, he's still more accomplished than 98% of boxing. If you were to take Kenshiro's accomplishments and hold it up to 98% of boxing, he's gonna destroy everyone. So shout out to my man Breaking Bad Boxing. I just found his channel recently. Make sure you guys go subscribe to my main man Breaking Bad Boxing. He's new to the YouTube boxing community. He says that Arthur Beterbiev versus Dion Nicholson was just announced. So let me go ahead. Hold on. Let me go ahead and go to screen share because this. Are you sure you don't mean Damon? Because I don't even know. I don't know a Dion Nicholson. Who the hell is Dion Nicholson? I know Damon Nicholson. I know the Damon Nicholson, the one that fought Jesse Hart, the one that fought Berlanga. Let me see. Dion Nicholson. Where? Where is this announcement that he's fighting this guy Nicholson? Nicholson. So it says breaking news. Yeah, he's gonna fight Dion Nicholson. Who the fuck is Dion Nicholson? With all due respect, you know, he might be really good. He might be the truth for all I know. Who's Dion Nicholson? I know Damon. Who's Dion Nicholson? 18-0 or 22-0? 34 years old. They call him the Equalizer. Dion Nicholson. Have I watched him fight before? So he fought. So the only guy on his resume I know, he fought FR Apache. And this Apache guy, if I'm not mistaken, this is the guy that fought. Is this the dude that fought? Wasn't this guy heavyweight? Or am I getting confused? Or a cruiserweight? Yeah, no, this guy was a cruiserweight. He fought Brandon Glenn. Yeah, I remember him. I remember this guy. So that's his only loss, the Apache. And then since then he's fought. Do I know any of these names? I don't know. I feel like I've seen Quentin Rankin fight, but I can't remember. I'll be forgetting a lot of these names. I've heard of this guy before, Quentin Rankin. Okay. So wow. So Artur Beterbiev is not even gonna give us the Najee Lopez fight. Man, see, like I was okay with the Najee Lopez fight because, you know, and you know, I don't want to disrespect Dion Nicholson. He's a fighter trying to make it out here. You know, God bless him and best of luck. He's 34 years old. This might be his only shot at glory. So I'm hoping he goes and gives it his best and gives Beterbiev a good fight and put his name on the map. But man, that's a cherry pick and a half. I was at least hoping for Najee Lopez because Najee Lopez, you know, he's a fighter with good amateur pedigree. He's a fighter that's been showing improvement on pro box. He's been doing his thing. That would have been a good fight, but no, they're doing Dion Nicholson. So we'll see how it goes. You know, it's really a chance for Dion Nicholson to put his name on the map, and Beterbiev is going to stay busy. But my thing is, look, Beterbiev is 40 years old. What are you staying busy for? You 40 years old. What are you staying busy for? I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm a Beterbiev fan, but. You know, hey guys, you know what? I know what time is it? It's almost midnight here on the East Coast. Say it with me, guys. We're gonna say our favorite catchphrase because at first we were told Bivol Beterbiev. I didn't want to see it, but and supposedly Turkey didn't want to see it, but there are a lot of boxing fans that did want to see it. We didn't get that right. Then we heard a rumor that Najee Lopez was gonna fight Artur Beterbiev, right? And I was excited about that, but we're not getting that. We're getting Artur Beterbiev versus Dion Nicholson. So say it with me, guys. At least you get in the fights. At least you get in the fights. At least you get in the fights. This fight wouldn't have happened without Turkey and his vision for boxing. So happy birthday, Turkey. Thank you for this amazing fight. The big fight. Crazy. Thank you, Breaking Bad. And yeah, make sure y'all go subscribe to him and go run it up because I know how hard it is when you first start your channel. It's hard, man. It's hard to get them first couple hundred subscribers. It's tough. So Yugo Osaki, Aoi Yokoyama, and Yusa Sakai. Yep, those are the three you want to pay attention to. I would say those three will be the go-to. And Hayato Tsutsumi, if you're looking for a guy in a higher weight class, Hayato Tsutsumi, who's like one of the top-ranked guys at 130. You know. Shout out to my guy Hyro Galvez with the super chat. He says if Andy wasn't Japanese, you pick Gary. So you just assume I'm not, bro. Guys, I'm not from Japan. Like I got no like. He's just, I think it'll be Gary because of Gary's style. Gary likes to come forward and throw a bunch of punches, and he throws them at the same speed. They're fast, but at the same speed. A heavy-handed counterpuncher would carve Gary Anton Russell up, and that's exactly what Andy Hiroka is. He's tall, he's long, he's rangy, he's got good timing. I see that being a difficult code to crack for Gary. But that's just me. We'll see if Gary ever fights him. You know. Yeah, good luck, but good luck to Deion Nicholson, man. That's gonna be insane. So we got breaking news here on True School Sports. Artur Beterbiev is fighting Deion Nicholson, not Deion Sanders, not Deion Waiters, but Deion Nicholson. Yes, sir. Julius Armstrong, shout out to him. He says there is currently no top level Japanese fighter above 126. That is definitely not true, because at 130 you got Hayato Tsutsumi, who's one of the top contenders out there. And then at 140, you got Andy Hiroka. And I don't care, man. Y'all can make fun of me. I know y'all gonna make fun of me when I say this. But in this thin-ass welterweight division, I still think Jintozaki is one of the better welterweights out there. He just because Brian Noman did that to him doesn't mean that the other guys would. I feel like Jim could still beat a lot of guys in that top 15. Let me see. Beterbiev is on some bullshit since the first Bivol fight. He at this point, like, he probably just wants to make some money, man. He went ahead, he achieved his legacy, he became undisputed, he gave us a lot of knockouts. I guess he's trying to go ahead and achieve his legacy. See, now the Deion Nicholson fight, to me, on paper at least, on paper, it's a mismatch on paper. It's so much mismatch that I kind of wish we got Beterbiev Bivol 3. And I can't even, like, I was like the main one speaking out against the third Bivol Beterbiev fight, because I feel like they didn't really show anything special through the 24 rounds. They were good tactical fights. They were fights where, they both showed a high level of IQ, a high level of skill, the ability to make adjustments, but neither one of them really produced any moments of magic, anything special. You know what I mean? Hyro says, you've been real quiet about Dave Benavidez. You don't talk about him anymore. I made a video about him. I made a video about him fighting Anthony Young not that long ago. So I don't know what you're talking about. If I'm being honest, there's not a whole lot to talk about with Benavidez. I mean, what, you want me to sit here and say that Beterbiev should have fought Benavidez? Yeah, probably he should have. But guess what? When you have an authoritarian who's taking over the sport of boxing, that's not going to happen. Turkey don't even want to do Benavidez versus Canelo until like 2027, because that's part of his plan. So it is what it is. Like that's where we're at, Shout out to my main man, Julius Armstrong. He said, Jintozaki got put on the stretch in his career trajectory. It's very questionable. I'm even questioning it because, I talk to people at his gym not all the time, but I talk to people at his gym frequently. And like I gave them a lot of ideas with how I think he should improve, and I'm hoping that in time they listen to what I'm saying, because if they don't, it's not gonna. I don't think it'll end well. But one thing about Jin, he's tough, he can punch, and he's not gonna. He will fight till you put him on a stretcher. So, that might be enough against some certain level of guys. That might be enough. But with the way he got knocked out, who knows? Who knows how he's gonna his chin might be shot for life. I was kind of interested in Daigo versus 23. If Daigo were to win, do you think that would have been cool? I just thought it was cool since Daigo would have had the title this time. What do you think? Nah, man. Daigo Higa lost the rematch, in my opinion, and I feel like Seiya Tsutsumi constantly gets screwed by the powers that be in Japan. On all fronts, like early in his career when he fought Kazuki Nakajima, he won that fight, and they gave him a draw because Nakajima is an Ohashi fighter. Then, like, he should have been fighting Junto, right? And one of my Japanese friends was telling me that at the Japanese Boxing Commission Awards, he got really upset when Inoue got up and called out Junto, or when they did that whole thing, because that's the fight he wants. He wants to fight Junto. So I feel like he's the oddball out, and it sucks because really when it comes to entertainment and being a TV fan-friendly fighter, and even his skills, like he does get hit a lot, but what Japanese fighter doesn't get hit a lot? But he actually has some skills, like he can box southpaw, he can box orthodox, he can shift, he can be a volume puncher. He has a lot of good subtle skills. I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite fighters in boxing in any weight class. So I mean, Daigo Higa, he's cool. He's a good fighter, but nah, I would have wanted Seiya Tsutsumi to win. Turkey should give us Cole versus Naji. No, I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's gonna happen now. The fight I was hoping for in the future, my dream fight for Najee Lopez. I want to see Najee Lopez versus Atif Overton in the future. That's the fight that I'm hoping for later on down the line, but that's just me. At least you get in the fights. That's right. At least you get in the fights. Ain't that crazy how like I said that one video being an idiot, and now like that's a catchphrase here. That's crazy to me, because people come up to me and say, "At least you get in the fights." No, you're wrong about that, Julius. His best win is not against Shinzaki. His best win's against Ismael Barroso, the old man. You know, Daigo Higa was not going to 115, going all the way to 118. What do you mean? Daigo Higa mistake? Oh, Daigo Higa's mistake was not going to 115. Yeah, he should have stayed. Yeah, he was too undersized for that weight class. And credit to him, he was still good enough to make the fights competitive despite the size discrepancy and whatnot. But he should have stayed. Yeah, he should have stayed at 15 and done his thing. There've been some good fights. Maybe if he stays at 15, maybe he would have got the Bam Rodriguez fight. Who knows? Who knows what could have been for Daigo Higa? But that's why management is so important, because in boxing, one false move and you screw the whole trajectory of a fighter's career up. So management is so important. That's why I'm so fascinated by management. And that's why, like, I'm always fascinated by prospects and seeing how they develop. That's why, like, it's getting really fun for me in my journey in boxing now that I'm starting to, like, help some fighters out and things like that, and playing a role and guiding their careers. It's a lot of fun. Shout out to Greg Abernathy. He says, it sucks that Lopez did not get that fight. Who do I want next for the younger Vargas? So Emiliano Vargas. In a perfect world, I'd like to see him fight, like I think he called out the right guy. He called out the guy that, like Regis Prograis, a former champion, a guy that really and truthfully is a good name to have in your resume when it comes to Prograis. Prograis don't want to fight him. Prograis said, look, I want big money fights. I want to become the only 3-time 140-pound champion. Listen, man, forget a championship. I'm not even sure. I literally don't think Regis Prograis is good enough at this point to be a top 15 40-pounder. His punch resistance is completely shot. Completely shot. JoJo's over here hurting you. Nah, man. So I mean, let me look. Who's in the top 15 that Emmy could fight? What a 140 record? Let me go to screen share, because that's what we gotta do. We gotta go to screen share. Who could Emmy fight? Because I mean, he's 21, so I don't think Top Rank is gonna look at anybody in the top 15. Let me see. Let me go to his box rec, because with box rec you can get an idea for who's ranked around them and who could be on the radar. So let's look on box rec, because I already know he's not ranked in the top 15 anywhere. So Emmy is 37 on BoxRec. Let's see who's ranked in and around him at 37. So he's 37 here. So I would say, like, Prograis is such a perfect fight, but I know he's not going to fight Prograis. So maybe they're not going to do Senator Moore. That's too high risk. They're going to pick somebody below him. So let's just say I would like to see him fight maybe like a Ergashev, Gustavo Lemos, Jeremias Ponce, someone like that. Someone that's either been champion or someone that's challenged for a title. I feel like that's the level he's got to fight at soon. It don't got to be somebody in their prime, but someone that's at least been at that level, But I know that's not – Top Rank will probably give him like 2 or 3 cupcakes before he gets that kind of an opponent, before just being honest. So my man says, hold on. Mar the Prince says, BT, is it true that Taraj, if Taraj beat Sandoval, he was going to pursue a fight with Bam? I think Bam would have been too much for him. Also, if Bam fought Junto in NOA, do you think he goes 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2? So to answer your question, Mar the Prince, Kenshiro Taraji was 100% going to go look for Bam. Bro, Kenshiro Taraji has been talking about fighting Bam since 2023. During my first visit to Japan in 2023, I went and I visited Kenshiro Taraji in his gym in Kyoto, Japan. We sat down for like 30 minutes and I did an interview with him. And he was saying back in 2023 he wanted to fight Bam. And as he's been winning fights more and more, he's been saying that more often. That one of the things that really intrigues him is he wants to be in a fight where he's a big underdog against a top guy, and he feels like Bam will be that fight to where he can really show his greatness. But unfortunately, he didn't get not against Sandoval, so that's going up in smokes. I think he beat Sandoval. I went back and I watched the fight last night. I thought he beat him clearly, and I think Sandoval got way too much credit. Even though he boxed well and moved well, I think he got way too much credit. Ken Shiro was the more effective puncher, and Sandoval was throwing a lot of single shots, and the punches were. If you go back and you watch the fight, the punches were landing, but they weren't doing anything to Ken Shiro. Ken Shiro's punches had more of an impact on Sandoval, and on top of that, he threw more punches than Sandoval. And in rounds 6, 11, and 12, he was landing sustainable body work that visibly was troubling Ricardo Sandoval. So that's just my opinion on the fight. But as far as Bam fighting like Inoue or Junto, I've already talked about this at length. I don't think any of them fights is ever going to happen. First of all, Inoue and Junto got to happen before Bam even get considered to fight any one of them, because that's the big money fight around these weights in Japan. And the guy that controls all these guys is a Japanese promoter, Mr. Honda. Bam is like what? He's a 115 pounder, so he's what one? He's separated by 3 weight classes from Inoue. So I don't even think about Bam versus Inoue. But if I think Inoue would beat Bam. Honestly, I think Inoue would beat Bam. Bam versus Junto to me is more of a pick'em fight. That's a tough one. That one. I actually don't even know who would win. That's one of them like real 50-50 fights. So I would say I'll probably say Bam go 1-1 to a split. I think he could beat Junto, but that's a big if, because you got to get past that long southpaw jab and then that break hand. You got to get past all that, and if you can't, you're in trouble. So it'd be a good fight. It'd be a hell of a fight. You got my main man from the UK. Where is he? I just seen him. My main man Shakur. He says, "BT, my guy. A long time since I've been in one of these." Yeah. To be fair, Shakur, I haven't done the best job being consistent with these, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I've gone live three out of the last 4 days, so I'm getting a lot better with these. I'm working on something new for these lives soon, so y'all stay tuned for that. Y'all gonna like the new changes once I make them. But yeah, good to see you, man. Hope all is well. God bless. Tito Mercado. Ooh. Well, I saw Shakur and him were going back and forth. Shakur and him are going back and forth. Not Shakur. Emiliano Vargas and not Shakur him. Emiliano Vargas and him are going back and forth. That'll be a big fight for the future. I like that fight. My main man, I am Messi Cole. He says, hi BT, how are you doing? I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm healthy. I'm alive. God has blessed me immensely, and I'm here talking boxing with y'all, so I can't complain. So everything's great. I'm here for like another 30 minutes. I'm gonna give you guys an even 2 hours, and I'm gonna dip. But we're like almost 90 minutes in. So listen, get your questions in. Smash the like button. True School After Dark. HBO Box After Dark. That got canceled. That's old news. This True School After Dark now. The home of boxing after dark. We here. Junto stops Bam violently. Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. Or Evo is with Tiger Promotions. Let me see who else we got here. BT, shout out to Angel Diaz. By the way, Angel, I did see your message on Instagram. I didn't respond because I was getting prepared for this live. So I will respond to you soon. But he says, BT, what do you think about Keyshawn Davis' future at 140, and what route do you think he's going? Well, from what it sounds like, it don't sound like he got a big future right now, because he said he's pretty much semi-retired, which means that Top Ranks put him on the shelf. Like, he's not fighting. I think they are very pissed off, very disappointed, and overall just very disgruntled with what's happening with him and how he acted after, Kelvin Davis got his ass beat, so it is what it is. But at least we're getting Philly versus Angola. He's not retiring. I think Top Rank just put him on the shelf, and he's depressed, and that's how he feels. But I don't think he's actually legitimately retiring. He's not gonna do that. Or maybe I'm wrong. I think he got frozen out. Like Pedro. I think personally, Keyshawn went ahead and got frozen out. What do I think about Emmy against Elvis or Rayo? Nah, they won't do those fights. Too soon. Not that he can't beat those guys. I feel like Emmy could beat those guys. Those guys aren't killers. But you gotta understand what Emiliano Vargas is. Not just as a fighter, but more so like what he means to Top Rank from a commercial standpoint, what his marquee value could be, and how they view him. Top Rank views Emiliano Vargas as a potential guy in which they can build their foundation upon because, you know, he has the quote unquote look they say, and he's the son of a former, very notable former fighter. He's someone that they have big plans for, so they're gonna take the time with him. The same treatment Andreas got, which some of you guys loved and some of you guys didn't love, expected times 100 for Emiliano Vargas. So I honestly don't think we're gonna get those kind of fights. I think he's like 3 fights from that kind of fight. But I like those fights. I think he beat those guys. I think Elvis would be tough because Elvis is a very heavy-handed fighter. I think he beat the brakes off of Ryle though, right now. What is the next move Angel Leo should be making? Do you think he should fight someone like Nikita Nakano? Listen, man. I've made this abundantly clear, and I'll make it abundantly clear when it comes to Angel Leo. And I'm speaking as, you know, someone that has been around him a lot, seen him more than pretty much anybody else in the boxing community. I think he's a special fighter. So there's not one featherweight in the division that scares me. Not one. As far as his next move, well, look, he's a world champion, so obviously the big move would be to get unification fight. So he had to either get Espinoza or Ball or whoever becomes the ABC champion, because Stephen Fall's not going to be there any longer. If he can't get those fights, his last fight against Kameda was a mandatory, so he doesn't have a mandatory. So he's free to pick whoever he wants in the top 15. So, do a fight in New Mexico. I would say pick someone in the rankings. Pick someone that you feel you can look good against. You mentioned Nikita Nakano. I was there in Vegas when Nakano won his American debut and they faced off. I think that fight's gonna happen one day. I think Nakano will become the mandatory one day. I think Angel will still have the belt, and I think it'll be a great fight. Nakano is very explosive. He's very strong. But I see a lot of holes that he need to really tighten up on, because if he don't, it's going to be bad for him. But that's a good fight, though. Nakano, for my money, Nakano is the best featherweight in Japan. But I would say his next fight would be probably voluntary. Just voluntary, stay busy, because I don't think he's going to get a unification fight. Like I'm being honest. I don't think Fulton and him are going to do a rematch. I don't think Espinoza and him are going to fight. And I know for a fact Nick Ball and him ain't going to fight, because Nick Ball is in protective custody. He's just fighting 122-pounders and waiting for Inoue. So until then, if he can't get the champions, you stay busy. Shushu, I don't think wants to go the route of fighting Angelo, because Angelo has the IBF belt, and there's that rehydration. And we've all seen Shushu at weigh-in. So imagine Shushu at a weigh-in with the IBF rule. So I think, honestly, his next fight probably be voluntary, if I'm being 100% honest with you. Yabuki, y'all mentioned Masamichi Yabuki. Hyro says that Masamichi Yabuki is the #1 flyweight now that Kenshiro lost. He's damn good. I love you. I love Yabuki. I think that he could definitely go ahead and on any given night beat anybody. He's one of the top pound punchers in all of boxing in any weight class. I hope Yabuki beats Ricardo Sandoval and make a trilogy between Yabuki and Ken. That'd be a good fight. I like that fight. I'm hoping we could get Yabuki, or the fight I want to see Ricardo Sandoval. I want to see the Kenshiro Ricardo Sandoval rematch, because I went back and I watched that shit last night. And yeah, guys, I didn't want to use the word because I like Sandoval, but I really do think the fight was robbery. I thought Kenshiro won the fight pretty clearly. But if we can't get the rematch between them, then I want to see Ricardo Sandoval fight Anthony Olas Kuwaga on American soil in California. Do a unification fight. I've never seen a unification fight between two fighters from the USA, so I would like to see that. The way Nick Ball is moving is actually insane. It's insane that less people are calling it out. Yeah. Well, the reason why a lot of people are calling it out are two reasons. Number one, people don't really care about Nick Ball like that. Like, he's not like, he's a world champion. He's notable, but like, they don't care about him like that. And Nick Ball, really and truthfully, he's the UK's only world champion, and he's in the Turkey sphere. So all the outlets, you know, they're dick riding Nick Ball, for lack of a better word. Like they're gonna not really call him out for anything he's doing. But yeah, he's fought in the 122 pounders. He's probably been the most protected world champion in boxing. And I don't even like saying that because I like Nick Ball, but it's just the truth. He's not fought one featherweight since he became a world champion at featherweight. So hopefully at some point, we'll see. He might fuck around and lose. Like I think he should be. I'm putting him on a high upset alert against Sam Goodman. I think Sam Goodman is a very, very difficult fight for Nick Ball. Yeah, it's your boy BT, the Untouchable, True School After Dark, Tuesday night. Hope everybody's happy. Well, now it's Wednesday night, in the States, but if you're on the West Coast, it's still Tuesday night. Not a whole lot of boxing, man. It's a slow month. It's a very, very slow month in boxing. There's not a whole lot of big fights this month. I mean, out of all the fights scheduled this month, the fight I'm probably most excited about is the August 22nd fight with John Paul Rivera and Daniel Bailey. It's a featherweight fight, but that's really because I know Daniel Bailey. Like, he's a personal friend of the channel, and he's getting a big opportunity to fight one of Jake Paul's top prospects. So if he wins the fight, all of a sudden Bailey's in the mix of featherweight. So that's probably the fight I'm most excited about, because really there's not any big fights till Crawford Canelo. So, we're going to have to get creative here on True School Sports content-wise. And we've been doing that. Like, I got a lot of prospect reviews videos and contender review videos to work on. And yeah, it was supposed to be, like Pedro said, it was supposed to be Pedro versus it was supposed to be Pedro versus not Pedro. It's supposed to be Tank versus Roach, but yeah, they messed it up for us, unfortunately. Who do you think Espinoza fight next at 126? Leo and Espinoza are my favorite 126 pounders. Yeah, and I would say me too. Obviously, Angelo's my favorite fighter, probably in boxing, because that's my friend and part of the team, and he's a great fighter, and it's different when you see a guy develop in front of you. Like, you really see like him go from here to here. It's insane. But I love Espinoza too. I feel like Espinoza, he's one of my favorite fighters too, because he's like the definition of a champion. Like, I was there when he beat Robesi in South Florida for the title as an underdog, and he's always makes so much time for the fans. Like, he just carries himself like a champion. So I got a lot of respect for him. But as far as who Espinoza fight next, that's a great question. I've been trying to figure that out myself. Now, I'm hoping in the next year that him and Angelo fight, because I think it's a great fight. And Espinoza is a guy that a lot of people regard to be the best featherweight, and we want to beat him. So we love that fight. But if I gotta take a guess, man, I don't know. Maybe because his last fight he fought Edward Vasquez, and that was a voluntary. I don't think he has a mandatory, so I don't know. I'm looking at the rankings right now. I'm seeing a couple of Japanese guys like Kenji Fujita and Ryuto Owan, maybe one of those guys, maybe Elijah Pierce, maybe Omar Trinidad, maybe Luis Neri. I don't know, but it'll be someone in the rankings. I don't think he's fighting any unification fight or anything like that next. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Ooh, okay. Who do I think has a higher ceiling? Shushu, Santana, or Makita Nakano? That's a good question. So, man, because all those guys have, to me, all those guys have big question marks. Shushu's question marks for me are his feet. I think his feet are a big question mark to me, and Top Rank's matching him accordingly. Nakano's question mark is his like most Japanese fighters, his head stays on the center line, and he can dish it, but does he have anything defensively for when guys counter when he fights more sophisticated fighters? And then for Santana, so far, like, from what I've seen from Santana, he's looked pretty damn good, and he's got some pretty good wins on his resume. He beat Aaron Alameda easily. He washed him. He stopped Eduardo Baez. I would say, because he's pretty big, I would say in no order, I would say Santana probably would be one. No. Yeah. I'm gonna go with Santana 1, Jan Santana 1, Nakano 2, and then I'll go with Shushu 3. I don't think I think when Shushu goes up at 130, he's gonna have a hard time, to be honest with you. And I like Shushu. I hope Shushu improve and get better. But yeah, man. I love Nikita Nakano. I think Nakano is gonna be one of the most exciting. I think he's one of the most exciting featherweights in boxing. Ooh, they were talking about that. Rudy Hernandez was shooting off at the mouth about moving not Junto up to a featherweight to fight Espinoza. When Junto fought Nishida, right? He won the fight because he walked right through Nishida. Nishida didn't have anything for him. But what I noticed in that fight, I remember a couple instances where Nishida was able to visibly trouble Nakatani. I don't think Nakatani could just go up right away and beat Espinoza. I would actually lean towards Espinoza in that fight. But it'd be a hell of a fight. If anybody can move up 2 weight classes to beat Espinoza, then I think a guy like Junto could. He's a damn good fighter, one of the best fighters in the world. When are you going to talk about Albert Bell? Well, he's fighting Keith Hunter next. That's going to be an interesting fight, I guess. I mean, Keith Hunter. Keith Hunter got mad at me recently. He got mad at me because I unfollowed him on Instagram, and he told me that the way I cover boxing is shitty, and that I'm a bandwagon fan, and this, that, and the third. So I'll have to actually cover Keith Hunter soon. So he'll get a video soon. But should be a good fight. Two long rangy fighters. Two long rangy fighters. Guys that know how to box. Albert Bell needs to come out here and make a statement. I am Mexico says, what did I order from Chipotle? I saw your cup. I got me a burrito. I got me I got me a chicken burrito with medium salsa, fajita veggies, sour cream, corn, cheese, and that's it. That was my order. And then I got the mango turmeric agua fresca. So that one. That's the order. For those that want to know. For those that want to know the information. Keith, who lost to Polanco, yes, that Keith Hunter lost to Polanco. He's fighting Arabelle next. That's the next fight. Yep. Yes, sir. What are your thoughts on Mirko Cuello? I like Mirko Cuello. I think he's a good fighter. I know he's fighting today. I think he's fighting. He has a stay busy fight coming up for the interim title. I think he could beat Nick Ball. But I don't want to say what it is because there's always a possibility that Angelo might fight him in the future. So I don't want to say what it is. But I was talking to Angelo's dad, the great trainer Miguel Leo, and he pointed out something ridiculously obvious to me that I never saw, that nobody else ever mentioned to me. And when I saw it, I'm like, wow, that's a big flaw. And Cuello better work on that because if not, he's going to get knocked out. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. But he's a good fighter, good boxer, solid image pedigree. He could fight. BT, why hasn't the Neri fight been announced yet? It's been months since he signed the deal. I don't know. Maybe they were waiting to sign Casemiro. Maybe they're gonna do Casemiro versus Neri in Japan. Because if you don't know, Neri's with Kameda Promotions, Casemiro's with Kameda Promotions. So maybe that winds up being the big fight. Maybe they wind up doing Neri versus Casemiro on Kameda Promotions. Now, wouldn't that be something? Did I hear about what happened to those guys? No, I don't. I'll be honest. Unless it's like Sean Zattel or a channel that I really pay attention to, I be in my own world when it comes to this boxing stuff. I just be in my own world covering the boxing. I always got things to do. What happened? Did I watch Chavez versus Flores? That was the fight on the Golden Boy card. No, I didn't watch that fight. I watched the prelims. I watched my boy Kevin, but that was about it. I didn't see it. Yeah, I know. So I'm saying Casemiro's with Kameda. Neri, they just announced that Neri's with Kameda, so that could be the fight. Who has a higher ceiling between Iglesias, Shiraz, Yo-Yo Hernandez, and Pacheco? Ooh, those are great questions. So, who can scale the most weight classes and stuff like that? I would say I've always been a big Jacob Pacheco guy. I still am. I do think he's going to be a champion at 168. But I don't know, man. Hamza Shiraz really made a statement. But, you know, I'm going to stick to my guns on Pacheco. I feel like I've been big on Pacheco for like 7 years at least. So I'm going to say Pacheco. I feel like, you know, I don't think he's a 10 or anything. Like, he's kind of like Xander in a sense. Like, he's not a 10. He ain't a 10. He's not like as far as like 10 out of 10, he's not a 10 out of 10 puncher or anything like that. But he's like an 8 or a 9. Maybe he's a 7 in some categories, but he's pretty much an 8 or a 9 everywhere else on the board. So I feel like even in fights where guys may punch harder than him, he could outbox them. So I feel like he's got more paths to victory against most of the guys he fights. So I'll go Pacheco 1. I'll go Iglesias 2. I'll go Iglesias 2. I like Iglesias a lot from the little bit I've seen. I'll go Shiraz 3 because I feel like, you know, Adames did show some of his vulnerabilities, and I think if he gets a durable boxer who can counterpunch and is crafty, I have a problem. And then I know everybody's big on Yoyo Hernandez. I'm not sold on Yoyo. I'm holding out. I'm holding out. I'm not really sold on him yet. Good fighter, but I'm not really 100% sold yet. But he's good. He's getting good sparring with Canelo and Boots and these kind of guys. According to Boxing says, apparently Fanon wanted to physically connect with. Hey, you know, hey, that's not my business. You know, it's not my concern what these YouTube content creators do with their private life. So hey, that's what he does. That's what he does. But over here on True School Sports, we're very, very heterosexual and we like women. So hey, to each their own. It is 2025, right? Love who you love. Do what you do. You know. But I don't fuck with that stuff. For being honest. I am Mexico says, do you know that Jim Sasaki will possibly be making a fight announcement at the Inoue MJ fight during card? I didn't know that, but it's not shocking to me because I've been seeing on the Hachiyoshi Nakaya Boxing Gym Instagram page, shout out to my boy Issei, that he's been out and about making public appearances. It seems like he's getting ready to get back to the gym soon, so that's not shocking. Maybe he might honestly knowing how crazy these Japanese fighters are because they're crazy. They're not wired like most people. He might already be back in the gym, so you know, we'll see. Training with Benavidez I mean Pacheco at one point in time he was the number 1 amateur for the USA and Mexico. Before he turned pro, he was the number 1 USA and Mexican amateur at the same time in his weight class. That's why every promoter in boxing was knocking the sign down on his door. So I've always been high on him. I've always thought that like he was the best of the Matchroom Boxing USA fighters. I always thought he was better than Otha Jones and Ammo Williams and even Raymond Ford, who you know Raymond Ford right now is more accomplished than Pacheco. But I've always thought Pacheco to have a higher ceiling and be a better fighter than Ford. He just has to, you know, get the title shot, but he can't get it because he has the face of boxing, Canelo Alvarez in his weight class, who's dictating everything. So he gotta wait. My man Fix Electronics, shout out to him. He says, when are you making another trip to Philly? I don't know, man. I want to go at some point. You know, I went that one time in 2022. There's still so much more in Philly that I want to go see. I want to go to different gyms. I want to definitely try the food more. I want to try some more food in Philadelphia. And I got some friends out there, so I definitely want to go out there and explore. But you know, to be honest, I'm not really planning on doing any traveling in America or abroad. I want to just chill the rest of the year and just keep my life as simple as possible because the last 2 years have just been insane. So, you know, because in the last 2 years I've been to Japan 2 times, Nicaragua, Arizona, Vegas countless times, New York, South Florida, Texas, New Mexico, California. I'm burnt out, you know, so I just want to keep life as simple as possible. But, you know, when I'm going to Philly, you'll know. Philly versus Angola. You know what, guys? I'm getting an idea now. If they better not announce this fight. What I was told earlier better not be true because if this fight gets announced between Boots and Lima, I'm gonna make a Philly versus Angola T-shirt and put it on Teespring. Straight up, I'm gonna put it right on Teespring because I gotta actually start working on my Teespring store a bit more. I got a bunch of ideas for merch because I'm not just a content creator, guys. I'm many things. I'm a content creator. I really got the mind of a filmmaker. I can make great box documentaries. I just gotta sit down and do it and write the scripts out and do all that kind of stuff. And I've had my Teespring store for a couple of years, but I don't really like advertise it, and I want to put more things in it. So like, if they make a Philly verse, if they make this Boots fight with Lima happen, I'm gonna make a Philly versus Angola T-shirt. Straight up, I'm not even playing. Nah, I'm not going there for that. I think Jamal Charlo beats Pacheco. Charlo's too strong, and that jab will give Pacheco problems. Maybe, possibly. I think I think Pacheco will beat Charlo right now, but Charlo does got a very, very good jab. He says, "Sick, bro. I know you could make a movie. What type of movie? I'm talking about boxing. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm talking about boxing. Have you considered going to other Asian countries like Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, or Singapore? Yes, 1,000%. I know. I know people in all those countries. I know fighters in all those countries. Actually, believe it or not. So, at some point in time, it's all in God's timing, man. It's all in God's timing, and when it happens, it happens. But God willing, it'll happen. Not in a not so distant future. All I'm gonna keep doing is working hard and making sure that I'm the best I can be across the board in life. But when it happens, it'll be great. BT, will you be at the Canelo fight? I already got my tickets. Let's link up and grab food at the MGM. I'm not planning on going out there for that, but I might. There was a fighter. There was a fighter that I know personally. I'm not gonna say his name, but he got offered a fight against a very, very big name fighter. If he takes the fight, which I don't know if he's going to, but if he takes the fight, I'll be at that fight. I'll be there just for him. But other than that, no, I'll be here. You know what? I like it. Martha Prince is asking some badass questions. I like his questions. He says, "Who is the highest ceiling? Mason, Vargas, Moses Italma, Carmelo, or Andy Cruz?" Oh my God, those are all really good fighters. All a big potential. I would say the guy that I think has the highest ceiling, and I don't know, are you saying Moses Italma or Zaquin Moses? I think maybe you mean Zaquin Moses because all the guys you need are like 135 pounders. I've been a Abdullah Mason guy for a long time. I've got a video on this channel saying that I think Abdullah Mason will be the welterweight champion in 2027 or 2026. I can't remember what year I said, but I'll go Mason 1. I'll actually go with Emiliano Vargas 2, only because I'm factoring in how big of a commercial star I think he'll be. So him number 2. Now I haven't really watched Zaquin Moses like that, so I don't have an opinion on him. So I'm not gonna order him because I don't have an opinion on him. I'll put Carmelo in 3, and I put Andy Cruz 4, only because Andy Cruz is older and he doesn't have as much boxing in front of him as those guys. So Mason, Vargas, Moulton, and Cruz, and then Zaquin, I haven't really watched him, so I hear he's good. I hear he's good. Which fighters do I know from Hong Kong? I forgot. There was a dude. Remember, I met a guy. I met a guy a couple years ago. I meet a lot of people, man. I be forgetting names. My memory's going bad. But there was a dude I met years ago in Miami at Mundo Boxing Gym. This is coming for a guy that asked for Jinzaki versus Brian Norman fight. And you know what? I'm glad. Everyone should be glad that fight happened. It produced the knockout of the year. It produced something fun. It was a fun fight. So I'm glad it happened, and I wouldn't change anything. Credit, and I give both fighters respect. I give Brian Norman Jr. and Jinzaki credit. 2 young fighters, 2 young undefeated knockout artists, stepping up to the plate to make a fight to see who is the youngest world champion in boxing. I can't speak bad about those guys. Dirk, Lil Dirk. Let me see what she got. A boxing movie, but like Rush Hour with you and Angelina. You're Chris Tucker and he's Jackie Chan, kind of. Yeah, I'm like 5. I'm like 3 shades lighter than Chris Tucker. Is Sinisa Estrada really retired? You don't think that Jake Paul money would come through? I've always thought that I don't really think Shanice's truly retired like that. I feel like she just wants to go do other things, in her personal life. So God bless her. But if the right money came along, I feel like she'd come back for the right money, just like most fighters would. You never talked about Carmelo once. Yes, I have. I went to Carmelo Owens' amateur fight against Marcus Luther in 2022. That video is on the channel, and I've got multiple videos talking about. I got at least 4 or 5, and I've interviewed Carmelo Owens. I got at least 5 videos on Carmelo Owens for sure. Jin Sasaki is a tune-up fight. You had no problem with that fight. That wasn't a tune-up fight. I don't think it was a tune-up fight. I mean, and if it is a tune-up fight, then damn. I mean, then more fighters should start fighting guys with the 89% knockout ratio for tune-up fights. Listen, Brian Owen beat the shit out of Jin, and he outclassed him. There's no doubt about it. But he's still one of the hardest punching fighters in the division. So maybe more fighters should do those kind of tune-ups. When was the last time Boots fought anybody whose knockout percentage was in the 80 percentile? Let's see. Was Stanley Honest? Let's see Stanley Honest. Was Stanley Honest? The great Stanley Honest, who Boots fans love to hype up so much. Stanley Honest. By the way, Jim would beat Stanley Honest if they ever fought. Because unlike Stanley Honest, Stanley Honest quit. Stanley Honest quit in the Jaron Ennis fight. Jin didn't. I feel like that'd be a good fight. Stanley Honest is the more polished guy, but I think Jin could beat Stanley Honest. Yeah, bro. Has Boots ever fought anybody who you could even classify as an elite puncher? At least with Jin can punch. He can really punch. Nah, Stanley Honest was 50%. What has Jin done for it to not be a tune-up fight? Just say you're biased to a Japanese fighter. Stanley Honest has done more than Jin. Jin is a more dangerous fight than Stanley Honest. If Jin hits you the wrong way one time, it has a better chance of damaging you than if Stanley Honest hits you the wrong way one time. That's not hate. Just go watch the tape. The welterweight division is very thin. I think we can all agree that the welterweight division is incredibly thin. So if Brian Norman doesn't fight any of the champions and he picks anybody in the top 15, you could damn near say it's a tune-up. So he picked a guy that was number 2 in the organization he had a belt in, who had an 88 or 89% knockout ratio. Yes, Stanley Honest has done more than Jin. Not by a lot, but he's done more. I'll give you that. They should fight. All I know is, look, I watched both those fights because I was excited for Boots' fight against Stanley Honest. I was excited for Nolan's fight against Sasaki. I watched those fights very closely, closer than I watched a lot of fights. Bro, Stanley Honest quit in the fight. I went back and I rewatched it because I had to refresh my memory. I had to make sure I wasn't seeing what I thought I saw. Stanley Honest looked for a way out in that fight. And Jin, although he got put on a stretcher, he got put on a stretcher. He had to get nailed to the canvas. And I said that's the kind of fight I was going to be. Yeah, knocking out Japanese domestic level fighters don't make you a killer. Karen. Oh, here we go again. Here we go. The Boots fans bring up the fighter. They bring up Karen, the guy who's not. We talk about fighters not doing anything. That's the guy that's never done nothing. Boots fans love to bring up Karen, but only when it's about Karen fighting guys besides Boots. When you bring up Karen to say that Jaron Ennis looked incredibly flawed and couldn't come up the ring, now you're the bad guy. But maybe make the fight. I would love to see that fight. I'm not against it. What got confirmed? Yeah, I talked about it earlier. In fact, I talked about it right when it got announced. Somebody informed me it got announced. I know I've seen a lot of these guys. I watch a lot of boxing, so I see these guys fight, and then sometimes I just forget about them. So I'm pretty sure I've seen Dion fight, but because he fought the F4 Apache, the African guy that fought Glanton, he fought him. And so I know I've seen him fight, but I can't remember anything. So all I can do is go off paper like you. Better Biev is taking a stay busy fight, but my question is, What is he staying busy for? He's 40 years old. Like, you got to get to it, brother. Like, you got to go ahead and you got to fight. I was okay with you fighting Najee. I was okay with you fighting Najee Lopez, but this is like a step, like a 5-step step. Like, yeah, quite a few steps down from even a guy like Najee Lopez. That's what I'm saying. Like, at least when Jin was fighting his domestic level guys, and you can go look him up, he was knocking these guys. Bro, he was flatlining dudes. Go look up some of Jin Suzuki's knockouts before he fought Norman. He was flatlining guys. Jin would beat Barrios. I'll ask you, can Jin beat a big welterweight like Jamal James? It depends on which Jamal James shows up. If the Jamal James who boxes and uses his range shows up, of course he could beat Jin because Jin's not fundamentally sound. But the Jamal James that's gun shy and be letting the fights pass him by show up, Jin will beat him too. I like James though. James is a good fighter. He's real inconsistent. Can we talk about Eubank versus Ben rematch? How about no, man? I don't want to. I mean, it's happening. I guess, at least we're getting the fights. I don't know, man. I'm not too excited about it. I feel like I know people are excited about it. I'm not really too thrilled about Eubank versus Ben, if I'm being honest. But if you got any questions about it, you can ask. I'll do my best to answer. But I really don't care about it if I'm being honest. Karen is far better than Jin. How? How is he far better than Jin? Because he exposed Jaron Ennis for what he wasn't. Is that why he's better? He's never beat anybody. He didn't beat Boots, and then he didn't beat nobody with the name besides that. At least with Jin Suzuki knocked out Keito Ibarra, a guy who's fought for the world title. Has Karen ever beat? Let me see. Has Karen ever beat or knocked out anybody who's fought for the world title? Jin has actually knocked out a former world title challenger. So you guys get to talk out the side of your mouth. You don't know nothing about who these guys fought. You don't know anything. You just watched the Brian Norman fight, and that was it. But Brian Norman is the best welterweight in the world, so there's no shame in that. Karen's best win is probably against a part. He fought. Is this Ryan Martin? Is this the Ryan Martin? Blue chip? Oh no. He fought a different Ryan Martin. I thought he fought the black Ryan Martin. He fought some Ryan Martin from the UK. If he would have fought the Ryan Martin that fought Baranchek, I would have given a little bit of credit, but he fought a Ryan Martin that was British. Bro, Karen has literally fought worse competition than Jin, and you guys are over here talking about, he's so much better than Jin. And when he's never fought anybody or beat anybody that challenged for a world title. Jin has fought and beat and knocked out somebody who's fought for a world title. Harry Scarf is a good win. That's probably his best win. So are we going to praise Karen for beating British level opposition? That'd be a cool fight. Jin's boxing IQ is laughable. You as a boxing fan should know better. Listen, I've seen Jin spar. I've seen him spar. I know his whole career inside and out. He's a gunslinger. But believe it or not, I'm not gonna name no. Let me not go there. Let me not go there because if I say what I'm about to say, you guys are gonna know what I'm talking about. He's better than He's better than people give him credit for, and you'll see down the road. You'll see. BT Karen beat Boots in the first fight. Give this man his credit. Yeah, look. Maybe Karen is better than Jim. Maybe Karen is better than Jim because Karen really beat Boots in the first fight. How about that? How about we stop arguing about Karen versus Jin? How about we argue about did Boots really beat Karen in the first fight? Hand history is like he's pounding the table that like, yo, he won that fight. Harry Scarf beat Ekal Esserman, who retired Josh Taylor. I didn't say it was a bad win. I never said Harry Scarf wasn't a bad win. I said that that's his best win, but Harry Scarf never fought for no world title. Has Karen ever beat somebody that has challenged for a world title? BT Ibarra lost to Edward Troyanovsky, who lost to Julius Ndongo. That's worse, but he fought for the world title. He fought a world title challenger. Karen challenged for the world title against Boots. That's about it. Like he never beat anybody that's been at that level. The only guy he fought on that level was Boots. That's a tough fight. See, I don't know what he's up to these days, but yo, the Ray Robinson from Philly was a very good fighter. I thought he beat Josh, or yeah, a lot of people thought he beat Josh Kelly. I thought he did more than enough to get a nod in that fight. See, now that's a hard fight. Jim could lose that fight. That's a fight he could lose. That's crazy. I never thought I would see people from Philadelphia hype up Harry Scarf because that's different. Yeah, Karen's a high risk, low reward guy. I get it. Like, dudes ain't just gonna jump to fight Karen. He's not a big name. He's European. I know. Like I know. Who know? You know what? Maybe maybe Boots and Karen can do the trilogy at 154. Karen got a fan base in Philly now. If Vincenzo Gutierrez can become world champion, that's not saying very much. Keito Ibarra is better than Vincenzo Gutierrez. You're naming an outlier here. I'm calm. I'm not crashing out at all. I'm definitely not crashing out. Like, I'm just saying, man, like, Karen, I'm not an idiot. Like, I can see what he's got good footwork. He does some great things in there, but like, people want to start talking resumes. They say, "Oh, who did Jim beat? Well, who did Karen beat?" We could all play the whole like, "Who did this guy beat?" game. You could do that with every fighter. You can literally you can pick the greatest fighter in history. Shit, people do it already. People will pick Floyd Mayweather and they'll say, "Oh, he fought nothing but bums." Like I had a guy the other day tell me on my chat that Floyd Mayweather cherry picked and fought nothing but bums, and that's not true. Like, I didn't know Miguel Cotto was a bum. I didn't know that Diego Carlos was a bum, but to some people, Hall of Famers are bums. So my thoughts on the fight is that it's a real, like, people were shitting on Better BF for the Najee Lopez potential fight, and they were saying that that's a cherry pick and that's a stay busy fight. But no. Better BF and Turkey showed you guys, no, we're gonna get Better BF and even a real stay busy fight, like a real one. That's a stay busy fight if I ever seen one, you know. But I digress. Marlon Prince says Jin versus Jose Ramirez or Mean Machine would be solid. Yo, Jin versus Mean Machine would be crazy. That fight would be nuts because that's two punchers. You're basically saying that Jin is Andre because when they finally fought a world champion, they lost. Their resume is very similar. Well, you said it, not me. I'm not saying anything. You saying that. So that's what you want to say. That's what you want to. That's what you say. I think the problem with Boots is that his purse demands are high, which leaves little pay to his opponents. I could be wrong, but maybe he should take a temporary pay cut. Well, my thing, Dirk, and see, this is my this is my problem. Why when he left the division, when he decided to not fight Norman or not try to make the weight to fight Norman, you know, because they were supposed to negotiate supposedly, and they decided not to and go to 54. But Boots' biggest leverage in boxing as a fighter was the world title and the fact that he was regarded by many, the majority of boxing, as the #1 welterweight in the world. Now he still had to prove that because he had to fight Norman, but he was regarded by most as such, especially after being standing honest and picking up the WBA belt and the ring belt. Beating Norman would have just further like really solidified it, hammered it home, right? So he had a lot of leverage in that regard. But once he got rid of the belt, he gave up the negotiating power that he had. So now that he's 54, now that he doesn't have a belt, even though he's a big name, we all know Boots can fight and Boots is very good. Boots is someone that really and truthfully is just another guy. He's a jag. He's just another guy, and he's got to win some fights and become champion again. So that he's not just another guy. So he's put himself behind the 8 ball, you know. So yeah, and that's nothing too. Eddie Hearn and them are not really holding up the end of the bargain. You're offering these guys $250,000, which is nothing because when you factor in, right, think about it. Every fighter has a manager, right? So manager is going to get 10%. Then you got to pay taxes. Trainer's going to get his cut. Fighter's only going to take, at the most, a fighter's going to take home probably like 60% of whatever's reported. 60, maybe 65 to 70% if they're really, really like in a good situation, right? And for some fighters, sometimes it's even like they're only taking 55% of what's reported, because sometimes they have these crazy management agreements where the trainer is the manager and the trainer as well. So sometimes, they jack up the percentages because of that. I know a couple people that do that. It's crazy. So, if you're getting paid 250, you're walking home with just north of 100,000. So it's like, who you guys think that a fighter should fight somebody as skillful and as dangerous as Jaron Ennis for $100,000? I don't think so. So it gets to a point where Eddie Hearn has to believe in his talent and overpay, or just pay these guys whatever it takes to get in the ring with Boots. Because if you believe Boots is truly that guy, he'll do his job, and he'll hold up his end of the bargain and win the fights. If not, then you'll find out that he's not like that, So it is what it is. To be fair, you're going by the eye test when it comes to Jin, because he hasn't beat anyone. You're wrong. I named someone to beat. I named you a guy who fought for a world title that he knocked out. Now you can say he didn't beat nobody on the elite level, and that's fine. But I named you someone that is at a higher level than anybody carrying this beat. Which also, BT, which hurts more for you, Angelo Leo losing or Kenshiro? Angelo Leo for sure. If you were to lose again, that's my friend. That's one of my best friends on the earth. Like, I know him. I know his dad. I know his son. I know members of his family. When we were in Japan, I played a big role in organizing the training camp out there. Like, that's my guy. Like, so that's definitely that one for sure. I'll go with that one. Obara is not a welterweight when he challenged for the belt. Yeah, but we're going off resume. I named you a guy who fought for a world title. Bro, there's barely any welterweights in Japan. There's like 10 welterweights. How many welterweights are in Japan? Let's look this shit up. There's probably 5 welterweights in Japan, and they're all undersized. Half the dudes that are welterweights in Japan are 140 pounders. Because I've seen All right, I'm back. Let me know if you guys can see me, because I don't know why the internet just decided to go out. But let me know if you guys can you guys see me? Yes or no? Because it's not popping up on me. Can you guys see me or no? Yes or no? Because I was making a point. I got into it about the internet. Can you guys see me? Just say yes or no. Say I'm good or I'm not good. I think I should be good now. So yeah, the point I was trying to make before the internet got in my way is that most Japanese welterweights players are undersized. I've seen most of them in person. I've seen Sora Tanaka, Jin, and Shoki Sakai all in person. So even the dudes that fight at welterweight are basically like 140 pounders because they're not very big. But Boots can fight Jin since it's easy. Yeah, I would love to see that fight. Why not? He should beat Jin, right? He should beat him easily because he's a more skilled fighter. So why not? But anyway, guys, look. I think on that note, I'm gonna wrap it up. It's like 1 a.m. I think I've hit on everything I wanted to say and speak on. So we'll wrap it up. But listen, guys, thank you for the support. Thank you for all the love and hanging out with me and talking boxing with me. Make sure you guys keep supporting the channel. You know, I'm getting closer and closer to that illustrious 100,000 subscribers by the day. I'm like 88,000 something. So we'll be there before you know it. And then I'll have the True School Sports celebration in Vegas, which I can't wait for. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But listen, you guys take care. God bless. Like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.